Is this it? Gameplay update! Can now jump during slide. What? What? Oh, and the map this is different now. They put that back. Interesting. That's interesting. I wonder like what that's gonna like lead to. That's probably gonna dash jump grants a very brief period with increased air control. 30% for 0.25 seconds. Whenever you dash jump, you can turn a lot better for 0.25 seconds. That's a very interesting change. Shrine is now easier to kill for the first one and harder for the second one. HP from 8,100 to 5,000 and then 10,000 on the second one. Damn. I don't think that's a good change. Maybe it is, but probably not. That's probably not that good of a change. Probably isn't good, if I'm being honest. HP updates after the first one dies like walkers. Fair. Shrine's attack no longer hits heroes under the shrine. Ooh! So you can hide under. Okay. Super Troopers, bonus DPS increased from 40% to 60%. That's pretty good. The upgraded troopers when shrine dies. Okay. Middle lane troopers now get upgrades when either of the shrines die rather than only when both die. I think it should get like 30% and then 60% when both die. I think that's what it should be. Killing a pair of base guardians now spawns a zipline boosted trooper wave to reinforce your push. Ooh. So this is going to make like the end game more like you feel like you can do more at the end of the game instead of being like, oh, we got to back out because you don't have a wave. That's really good. I like that. Because the base guardians didn't really do much. But that's pretty good. Medic Trooper DPS grows by 3% per minute. Okay. Troopers now gain 7 HP regen when out of combat. Trooper wave interval increased from every 25 seconds to every 20 seconds starting at 35 minutes. Huh? So what was it before? Was it just 25 seconds the whole game and now it's going to go to 20 seconds at 35 minutes? I mean, that would probably make games end faster, which is good. Like, you're less likely to go to a 50-minute long game with this change and the base Guardian change. Guardian's bounty increased from 1,000 to 1,500. You get more money from getting the Guardians. Pretty good. Walker's bounty increased from 3,500 to 4,000. Okay. So killing those actually are better for you. Walker's health rescaled from 6,800 to 9,350. 11,900 to 6,000, 9,000, 12. So they're going to... Wait. So they start out with less HP. So when you kill the first walker, it's going to have less HP. So it should be easier to get... So you can kill the first walker in like 8 minutes if you have enough damage. And then you can do the same thing with the second walker. But the third walker is going to have even more HP than before. Like only 100 more HP. I got to see this new item. We will see. Walker's armor decay rescaled from plus 75% to 50% to plus 65%. Huh? Oh, okay. So it's just going to be 65% the whole time. From over 20 minutes to over 18 minutes. Oh, at 18 minutes you can take the walkers easier. Oh, yeah. So they made the walkers a lot easier to kill. They made the last shrine harder to kill. They made the last walker harder to kill. Okay. Base Guardians bounty from 750 to 1,000. Yeah, I feel like the base Guardian should give more money than that. Still, that I didn't even realize how little money it gave. Shrine bounty increased from 0. Oh, so you get money when you kill a shrine now. That's good. I'm at work right now, so I can't test anything, unfortunately. I got you, bruh. Mid-boss base bounty increased from 2,000 to 3,000. You get more money getting the mid-boss. So killing a mid-boss probably ensures that you are going to win the game even more. Mid-boss base HP increased from 11,900 to 13,000. So people have a lot more time. That's a That's a reasonable size adjustment of HP. So if you wanted to go fight the mid boss and like steal it, you could probably do that with time. Mid boss global announcement health threshold reduced from 70% to 50%. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't think I like that. I don't think I like that. I don't know. We'll see how this feels. I feel like 70% made it more like, oh, we should all rotate to this. We have time. Now it's like it has more HP, so it's going to feel kind of, it's probably more, if we're going off of old HP, it's probably going to feel more like 60 to like 55% HP is whenever you get notified. That's what it's going to feel like. Yeah, the shrine bounty is really nice. Yeah, I didn't even know about these bounties until just now, so I mean, this is good to keep in mind. So it's like, oh, I need to get this guardian for money, or I need to get this shrine for money so we can like scale even better into late game. Fix's punch got a remodel, actually. Like, it looks different in game, or it does different damage. Yeah, that's how it used to be. So they just reverted it. Mid-boss now has 35% debuff resistance. Okay, that's fine. Rejuve drop duration reduced from 7 seconds to 6. Oh, so you gotta be faster. Rejuve duration no longer refreshes when hitting a crystal later. That's smart. Yeah, that shouldn't be a thing. Minimap now indicates if the urn is a favored. Oh! That is so good for the people like me that have a hard time reading the map. I don't have that hard of a time reading the map. I just don't have the extra mod that says whenever you're a certain percentage behind. Because I don't want to be cheating. Even though it's like a lot of people do it. That is a really good change for me because I've never got the mod. So I'd always ask other people that have the mod. So now I will be rotating to urns a lot quicker whenever I see, oh, it's in my favor. I'll do it. I'll get it done. Looks different. No stated in patch notes. Okay. Bet. See if there's anything different on Apollo or Calico or Mina, Fragile. Those are the only characters I really care to see things look different. What's up, Marcus? I just got here. Are the notes looking good? Yes! The flow of the game makes it feel like the game is going to be a little bit faster around mid-boss. A little bit quicker to end games. And yeah, it's gonna feel whenever you have good macro, you're gonna get rewarded for it instead of it just being good macro that doesn't really give you much, so the enemy team can come back. Hopefully, there's a bounty system though. I need to keep reading. Now I don't have to do mental math. Exactly. Added a neutral camp. Added a neutral camp to normal 3 week at Hidden King Park Walker. Yeah, we're gonna look at the map on that one. That's more money on the map, chat. So they're giving you more ways to make money in the game. Interesting. Added zero-way. What is that? Veils. Zero-way veils underneath the shrine platforms. Oh, I don't know what zero-way means, but there's going to be veils underneath the shrine. So as you go underneath the shrine, they can't see you in there. So people can hide underneath the shrine. That's interesting. Moved the mid lane bridge above the Hidden King base. The mid lane bridge above the Hidden King base. Entrance more to the middle of the two edges. I'd have to look at that too. So remind me, chat, to look at the bridge at the Hidden King base. And then I need to look at the neutral camps by the Hidden King Park Walker and the Archmother York Walker. Yeah, so that camp used to be there on the old map. I'm so glad it's back. Oh, is it above? Is it like above, like on the a higher level? That's gonna be good for like the people that are more vertical. I think there should be more vertical camps actually. Yup. Okay. Bet. Subsequent CC reduction increased. 8%, 24% to 10% to 30%. So the first buff, window from 7 seconds to 8 seconds. So one debuff is going to be stronger than what it was before, but adding extra CC is going to be weaker. It's still the first debuff is going to be like more useful for one person to have. Like it's going to be a big spike in counterplay if one person gets a CC ability, right? Well, it's like in the area around the walker in its own room. Okay, bet. I'll look at it. Move speed diminishing ramp now occurs around 11 minutes rather than 10 minutes. What the fuck does it? Move speed diminishing ramp now occurs? I don't know what that means. A fixed melee. Hold on. Wait. Are you telling me that point blank works on Calicos too now? Wait. I'm not gonna lie. I'm about to be the best Calico in the world if that's what that means, bro. What? Bro. Fixed melee abilities not using conditional damage based on enemy state. Close quarters. Point blank. Opening rounds. Yo. My build is busted. Yo. My build is... I'm not gonna lie, chat. They're gonna have to nerf Calico. Or they probably changed something about her anyways. But they probably didn't change her, like, melee damage. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Street Brawl. Do not give a shit about that. Okay. Added new tier 1 spirit item. Golden Goose Egg. Damage. What in the dog shit? Plus, this item's terrible for me, minimum. Movement speed, out of combat regen. Yeah, this is a support item. Hatch the egg, gaining souls and permanent buffs. Permanent buffs. The value of the egg grows the longer you hold on to it. Soul value per minute. Gain a permanent buff per 200 souls stored when hatched. What is the buff? Chat, what is the buff that it gives you? If it gives me more melee damage specifically, I might be going this item. That's a crazy damage penalty though. I don't know if that's like worth though. Hello. A lot of changes from what I hear. What's up, Ka? New item is kind of peak. Bro, that item is for late game carries. Probably goes crazy. Don't think so. Well, yeah, you might put this on carries then. Well, if that's the case, I might not buy it on Calico. I mean, 10% damage penalty is ridiculous, especially for a Calico and early game character. I was thinking like you could get to 200 pretty fast. How many minutes is that? Every how many minutes? Gain permanent buff per 200 souls stored. So in 2 minutes, I'm at 1,050. So I need to wait 3 minutes before I get one permanent buff. I mean, I could do that, but I don't know if that's like worth. Like the jar buffs. The jar buffs. What's a jar in this game? Wait, so would you, when you, so you just keep reactivating this as the game goes along? You don't sell this until like late game? So is it going to be a random buff too? If it's random, that's kind of like not good. It's like, this is like a lottery, bruh. I think the egg just gives you a sinner bonus. Sinner bonus, but like only one thing. I think it's not worth the item slot, honestly. I think I mean, minus 10% damage penalty. Like, bro, what the... You doing no... They're going to change that damage penalty, I'm not going to lie. There's like no reason for you to sit in lane if you have this. Like, you're just box running or just farming jungle camps if you have this. Like, you're not doing anything in a fight early game with this. 10% is crazy early game. I'm snagging this shit on Mo for sure. Oh, it might be good on Mo. It might be good for anybody that like, doesn't really need damage, right? Like a support or like a pick like Mo. Or depending on if the buffs are really good, it might be good late game for carries. But minus 10% damage penalty on a carry that usually doesn't do well early game is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Nope, it sells. Yeah, Curse also has damage penalty, but only 6%. Yo, Curse used to be 8%. Oh, wait. So Curse got changed to 10% too. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. Yeah, nah. On support or characters that can't farm a lot early, I can see this being a good snag. This might be really busted on Rem if you're good at stealing camps and then... stealing the centers, and then you want your own centers, because Rem being that fast and then moving for the boxes underneath, I think this is going to be a really good Rem item early game. Like, actually, like, a really good Rem item. Like, Rem's just going to scale so hard into late game if you get this. Anyways, yeah, now that I think about it, if it's just like a random buff for 10% damage, this is a support item. Probably good on fix executes. No, the minus 10% damage. I don't think you understand how much that sucks. Yo, that is terrible for people that like you need to do damage. Talon Bird or Shiv 4. What's the execution percentage on Great Talon? I don't think this is good on Shiv. Dude, Rem is going to fuck with Goose Egg, and it will... And you know what's crazy? Because Rem is a bird, the Goose Egg would make sense to be with Rem. It's his egg. He's a bird. 20% on Talon. He executes at 22% HP. You're trolling. Goose Egg, and it will nerf some of his damage, too, so it's a win-lose. There's no way it's 22%. I think Victor's outline got changed a little bit, if I'm being critical. I could be a dumbass. Still runs like an idiot. Yo, whoa. Below? What the? But you have to level it. You have to max this out. So it still isn't a good item on Great Talon. Yeah, no. Do not buy Goose Egg on Great Talon. Fuck no. You're dumb if you buy this item on Great Talon. Okay. Back to it. This is a bad item. I don't like that item at all. But Rem is really going to enjoy that item. Do it scale with his tag along? Huh? What scale? I heard you made out with Tom Holland. True? No. What a Viper remodel? That's more than chic. What does a chic mean? Half HP. That's a lot of HP. Extended magazine. Weapon damage increased. Okay. Probably going to be good on Graves. High velocity rounds no longer grants 5%. Oh. Now grants 8% weapon damage? Interesting. Velocity increased from 50% to 60%. These changes affect upgrades. Long range fall off range increase from 4. Oh. Active reload. You can now reload while already full when carrying this item. Oh, that's going to be good on Graves too. Opening rounds and Haze. Opening rounds, spirit power increase from 8 to 10. That could potentially be good on Calico, on melee Calico. Opening rounds, weapon damage increase from... Hey, we're going to have to do some more testing with that item. What? 4d5? That's like 23.5 extra melee damage, bruh. And it works on my 2 now. And it's only $1,600. That's more damage than if I were to get weighted shots, by the way. If they don't change weighted shots, this is going to be the better option for early fighting. Yes, and then I get them to flinch and I hit it heavy on them. Switch striker fire rate increased from 18 to 20%. Mega shot damage, spirit scaling. Okay. Split shot cooldown reduced. Okay, so Graves is just going to be cracked. Split shot now supports custom count and angles per hero. Wait! So if Graves has the extra count on her 3, when you max it out, does this add another one on top of hers? On top of the ones that she already has? Yo, this is going to be a must-buy on Graves. Split shot enabled for Celeste 3 at 70 degrees. I don't know what that means. You're a goner. I'm Delulu. What? Backstabber renamed to Stalker. Oh, that's good. I like that. I like what that is. Stalker no longer procs based on angle of attack, but instead based on doing bullet or melee damage within 8 meters of hero. We might have to do some testing, chat. Or melee damage? So I could... Chat, we may have some new items in this build. There's potential for me getting rid of Berserker. Potential. We'll see. This is definitely a drifter item, though. No longer has a proximity requirement for the overtime bonus beyond the 8-meter proximity. Okay, so you just get an 8 meters, you hit him with a melee, hit him with my 2, then they start bleeding. Melee charge heavy melee bonus damage now works with heavy melee abilities. Okay, that works for Billy. Wait for the Colossus Shades. Yo, what's up, Tyrag? Tyrag? What's up, bro? I'm waiting. This doesn't affect me at all. Spirit Shredder bullet, Spirit life still increased. That might be good on Apollo finally. This actually might be the thing that Apollo needs now. Weakening headshot bonus health increased. Okay. Ballistic. Okay. Right. What we're gonna not do is send me Steam. Bro, I really do not like getting messages on Steam. I don't know why. Yeah, fuck you guys, bro. Fuck you guys. Is there a way to mute that sound, bro? Holy shit. Bebop Vis is gonna go crazy. Wait, Bebop's uppercut is a heavy melee? I didn't know that. Damn, did I miss your thoughts on the Calico changes? No, I haven't got there yet, Fabrice. Look at the scroll wheel, by the way, see how much got changed. Oh my... Yo, chat, I'm not gonna lie. We might be here for like 2.5 hours, bro, because of the rate I'm reading shit. Oh, hell nah. We might only get to play like 2 games a day. I'm so serious. But we are gonna get through this because this is important. Everybody buckle in. Yes, you can also get healing melee and spirit snatch. What is healing melee? There is, I'll never tell you. Bro. Go to Steam settings, notifications, and toggle off play as sound when notification. Yeah. Get that shit. I never want to hear that sound again. I don't know what it is about this sound, but it actually bothers me. Because, like, I never get... Yo, I'm about to unfriend you, bro. Do not send me messages, bro. Steam settings. It's such an annoying sound. I don't know why. I don't know why this sound in particular just pisses me off. But I really don't like getting messages on Steam. Steam settings, notifications, and toggle off. Notifications. Never! Fuck that! Wait. Play sound, yeah. Turn that off as well. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Yes, sir. I will no longer be reading any Steam messages ever in my life again. So do not ever message me on Steam ever. Fuck that sound. What's up, Mar? Speedrun this shit and go to Calico. No. We are gonna get through this. Read faster, fuck boy. And yeah, if y'all weren't fucking with me, then we fucking wouldn't have this fucking problem. I told you, bro, you aren't even 5% of the way through. Okay, let me lock in. You were the last one to piss me off. It was more of Mar, though. She started it. Nah, I'm trolling. Y'all both fucking got on my nerves. Okay, ballistic talent weapon damage per stack increase from Oh, I don't think that's worth still. Still not worth. Range reduced. Yeah, it's not a worth item. Non-hero weapon damage increase. Yeah, it's not. This item is not for Calico. Nor solo hero multiplier. What the fuck I do? You sent me a Steam message. Hunter's aura bullet resist reduction increased. So it goes to 20 instead of 24, and it off of yeah, okay. Nah, it's still good. It's just not as broken in a 1v1. So Drifter, like, he's gonna get Stalker every single game. Like, that's literally his item. Yeah, Hunter's aura fire rate reduction increased from oh, this is gonna be really good against bullet people then. I get a yearly annoy free pass. I've almost subbed for a year. Okay, you can do that, Mar. Weighted shots now builds from slowing bullets. Oh, has slowing bullets passive. Oh, weighted shots no longer grants. Okay, I'm never buying this item. Now grants movement speed, not important. No longer grants not important. Debuff resist increased. Okay, that would be the only reason I got this item. Weapon damage increased to 40%. Opening rounds is better than this item. Weighted shot stamina reduction from 20% to 14%. That's whatever. This might be good. I like that slowing bullets builds into this now. Extra damage. I mean, it's cool, but no spirit resist. Don't need it. I'll just get Spellbreaker for debuff resist. And if I need extra, then I guess I'll get this. But, like, I really probably won't be buying this item. Express shot ammo consumed changed from 30% to 2 ammo. Yeah, that 30% is stupid. 2 ammo makes sense. Blood Tribute no longer has healing reduction. Blood Tribute self-damage increased from 40 to 50. Spirit Rend cooldown reduced from 2.2 seconds to 2 seconds. Spirit Rend lifesteal. Okay, this might also be another good... Well, I mean, that's the same as... Spirit Bullet, yeah, this is the same thing, so I didn't really do anything. Crushing Fist Hailing Ability now works with heavy melee abilities, doesn't apply to me. Frenzy base fire rate increased. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go crazy late game. Base Spirit Resist increase. Oh my gosh! Conditional fire rate reduced. Oh, okay, that's fine. Conditional Spirit Resist reduced. Spirit Overflow Spirit Power increased. That might be good. That's going to be good on Mina for sure. Might be good on Apollo. Spirit Overflow now grants 20% duration instead of 20% cooldown. Okay. The cooldown didn't do shit, so I mean, it's good, but I don't know what that would be good for on Apollo. Extra health increased, holy HP, enduring speed, fixed slow resistance, interaction with dash slows. Okay, restorative locket range increased. Restorative locket max stamina regen increased. Restorative locket now always restores at least 1 stamina. Okay, return fire, returning damage now always hits the target body. Some amount would naturally miss. Okay, return fire, bullet damage returns reduced from 60 to 50%. Weapon shielding damage threshold increased. Oh, so you have to do more damage for this to proc. It's interesting. Weapon shielding cooldown reduced by 10 seconds. Thank you, Twin. Calico got a buff and nerf at the same time. Well, opening rounds is a thing now, so it might not have gotten changed, actually. I feel like debuff resist needs to be on more tank items passively. Facts. Like, why when I'm full spear resist and debuff resist still getting absolutely touched by Infernus? Facts. I know we've been reading faster, but the bar has not moved. What's up, Cruel? Listen, Fragile. Relax. Apollo ult rebalance. I'll take it. What's up, Future Samurai? We'll get to that. Quit spoiling it. Bullet resilience, low health threshold increase from. Bullet resilience, low health resistance reduced. Okay. I mean, it's that's a nerf. That's a nerf, chat, but it's okay because of life strike heal on melee hit. Wait! Plus 1.5 per boon? So when is it going to outscale 160, chat? Can somebody do the math in their head real fast? How many boons do I have to have for it to do more than 160 healing just off of the base heal? Heal on melee hit percentage reduced plus 5% per boon. That's another nerf, chat, by the way. Big The Calico got a crazy huge buff, but yo, right? So what I just said about not spoiling, bro, stop it. Regular Spirit Calico got kind of diffed, low-key. Oh, so my Calico got buffed. You only get 35 boons max. So does that mean I'm only going to have... What's 1.5 times 35? Celeste nerfs? 15 boons about. Okay, so when I get to 15 boons, then Life Strike is good. Again. Okay, when does 30% get to 50% then? If we're going for the boons. If I get 0.5% per boon, how many boons is that? I mean, it's only 20, so is that 4 boons? I mean, I'll probably already be at that boon amount by then, no? We already got patch point blank change. What did I spoil? You spoiled that Calico got buffed. So, like, there's going to be changes to Calico, right? Majestic Elite Barrier increased. Interesting. Traffic Collector souls per minute increased. Interesting. Dispel Magic cooldown reduced. Okay, now Dispel Magic is going to be a better item for Mina. Fortitude time to regen reduced. Okay, this is going to be a better item. 13 seconds was way too long. Spellbreaker high instant damage reduced from 75% to 65%. So you're still going to take some good spirit damage. So this is going to make Apollo feel better late game. Divine Kevlar cooldown reduced. Nobody was building this item. I feel like people still might not be building that item that much. Inhibitor damage penalty reduced from 35% to 30%. Okay, Graves is not as broken. Inhibitor weapon damage bonusing. Yeah, never mind. I changed my mind. Cheat Death no longer reduces movement speed by -2 meters during the death immunity phase. Okay. Colossus active now grants you an addition. Oh, man, dude. It's a great day to be a Calico main. Another item finally building into melee. Holy. Double U. That's my U, so I put 2 of them, right? That's a 2U, right? So double U is that's a W. W. Or should I do this? I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. W Colossus, man. Yes, sir. Now my build makes even more sense, right? My build makes even more sense. So I'm going to do even more healing. Even though Life Strike got kind of changed and nerfed a little bit. Even more healing by the time I buy Colossus. I might even buy Colossus earlier. I might buy Colossus before Berserker. Potentially. Because 30% melee damage? Holy shit. Like off rip, because I usually proc Colossus as soon as I get to somebody. So then, don't do that. Don't do what? What am I not doing? Yeah, I don't know about all that. About what? About what? Y'all don't know about what? They just put Shiv on the dumpster. How about we get through the patch notes, Buckaroo? Oh, you're saying Berserker might be different too? Probably not. The Neferi treatment. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck Neferi. Siphon bullets now steals 2.5% of enemy max HP per bullet instead of a fixed amount. Oh, this is going to be really good against tanks. So Abrams might have finally gotten, like, he's going to feel weaker finally. Mystic regeneration health bonus increased. So, I mean, that's not really nothing. Duration increased. Kind of okay. They need to change this item, bro. More. Rusted barrel cooldown. Holy shit. Arcane Surge Spirit Power increased. Still never using that. Stolen Hex now sets the gravity of an enemy to a fixed plus 20% heavier, regardless of their own base values. Damn. Stolen Hex projectile speed increased. So it's going to get to somebody faster. Cooldown reduced by 3 seconds. Suppressor debuff duration increased by 1 second. Spirit Sap, Spirit Power loss increased from 20... Whoa. Damn. This might be good on Mina again. Spirit Sap cooldown reduced. I'm not going to lie. This might be meta again for Mina players. Decay healing reduction increased. That's going to be good for support players. And maybe shift players, maybe. If it gives him his rate. Silence wave damage spirit scaling increased. Holy. Cooldown reduced from 35 to... Yo, what the fuck? Yo, this right here is going to piss a lot of people off. I'm not going to lie. Oh, man. We're going to see a lot more decay, probably. Knockdown gravity increased from 50% to 100% when the stun hits the target. Caused airborne targets to fall faster. Well, Vindicta nerf. Radiant regeneration health bonus increased from 65 to 90. I mean, I feel like that's... If you have, like, a percentage health increase, then, like, cool. But just 90 extra HP? Nah. Radiant regeneration duration increased. Okay. Right, healing on ability cast boon scaling increased. Might be good. Current health bonus damage Mina's broken, chat. Mina is broken. Torment pulse damage spirit scaling reduced. Yeah, I don't even buy this item anyways. No longer hits sleeping enemies to avoid waking them up. I feel like I don't like that. But, I mean, it makes sense. The Starming Hex cooldown reduced from 26 to 16 seconds. Mina, ha! B tier easy. Yo, Lost Rico, you are wrong. Spirit Sap buff and Tank Buster buff, GG. And Spiritual Overflow buff, GG. And Spirit Shredder Bullets increased, GG. And Spirit Rend, well, Spirit Rend's not as important. Spirit Shredder Bullets... I mean, people don't build that always under, but you haven't gone through the nerfs yet, though. You're right, I haven't gone through those yet, bro. Magic Carpet duration. Ew. Bonus health. Cooldown reduced by 10. Holy. Cursed Relic. Damage penalty. Yep. Already seen that. Vortex Web now has a unit target option where it will vacuum enemies around that target. Wait, so, like, does that mean you'll get sucked past the wall if you're on the other side of a wall? Wait. The patch is insane. I'm looking. Yo, is all of the next that I'm about to read just hero changes? Holy Abrams! Holy Abrams! Damage reduced from 3.86 plus 13.13 boon to 3.6 to plus 1 boon. So he's doing less gun damage. Siphon Life DPS reduced, W. Siphon Life range reduced, W. Siphon Life is now circular rather than just in front of him. That's a W for him. Siphon Life range, I mean, but like people are always probably going to be in front of him now. They just now really made Abrams a melee concentrated hero. Is that true? The aim is like actually changed, not as big as the new Gods patch, but like actually big change. Yeah. What's up, Handsome Devil? Wait, can you restart your patch notes review? I'm working and joined late. I'm not going to lie to you, Handsome Devil. I am not going to do that. You can go back in the VOD if you want to. I've only gone through like maybe, I'm probably like, what is this, chat? Is this like... That could be like maybe 10 to 15% of the patch notes. That could be like maybe 10 to 15% of the patch notes where I'm at now, chat, right? Siphon range no longer increases with spirit power. Okay, so he's not building spirit power. Visual range effects fixed to show larger than default radius values. Okay, so it was not showing right. Lifesteal against heroes increased. Holy lifesteal. Lifesteal against non-heroes increased. This okay, so you need but wait, they didn't change. Okay, so you're gonna get DK for Abrams and Siphon Bullets against Abrams. And Tank Buster's gonna do more damage. So you need all those items for Abrams. Facts. Siphon Life DPS Spirit Scaling increased by 0.1. Siphon Life Tier 1 increased from minus 19 seconds to minus 1. That didn't do much. Siphon Life Tier 3 now also increased radius by 3.5 meters. Okay. Siphon Life Tier 3 DPS reduced from 20 to 18. Okay, that's okay. Shoulder charge damage reduced. I think that's good. Wall stun duration reduced. Oh! Holy... Yo, they're going to change that. That's 0.3 seconds is nothing. Shoulder charge spirit scaling reduced. Shoulder charge tier 1 changed from plus 2.2 weapon damage for 8 seconds to plus 40% slow for 3 seconds. Oh. So he's going to do less. He's going to do less. He's going to do less damage. Yo! Karma with the raid. W Karma. W's in a shot. How's your stream, bro? I've been gone for a long time. How am I still ahead of you on patch notes? No games today, chat. Because I'm reading chat, Jay. That's what's happening. I'm reading chat. Karma just hit us with a raid. Hello, W Karma. He's my European brother. Okay. So, yeah, his shoulder charge, he's not going to be doing more damage early, which is really good. But he's going to slow, which is like better for his role as a tank. Shoulder charge, tier 2, wall stun duration increase from 0.45. Okay, what's 6? That's 4. So that's 1.05 seconds to that's 1.1 seconds. You get a shoulder charge to tier 2. So you're gonna be stunned for even longer when he gets his duration, when he gets to tier 2 on shoulder charge. Tier 3 cooldown increased. Or that's actually a decrease. Okay, well, I guess, yeah, they have to say it that way, maybe. Shoulder charge, tier 3 now also grants plus 1.5 weapon damage for 6 seconds. Okay, well, he's still going to be doing less damage, which is good. New balances are fire, honestly. You can nerf the characters, but you can't nerf the player. I mean, nerfing the characters is just going to make it easier to deal with the player. So Abrams is not going to be as broken, is what I'm seeing from these changes, which is good. Abrams Infernal Resilience Tier 2 increased from plus 150 health to plus 200. Infernal Resilience Tier 3 now also grants plus 20 debuff resistance. That's fine. Seismic Slam Impact is a little faster to target the location when rising. Okay, Seismic Impact damage increased. Ooh. Seismic Impact now also allows you to use the items during it. Huh. That's fair. Impact radius reduced. That's good. So, like, if you get inside of a room, he's less likely to get you if you dash into that room, maybe. Seismic Impact Tier 2 changed from per hero hit plus 100 HP and 14% fire rate to plus 6%, plus 0.6 second stun duration. Oh. So he's going to be less tanky when he hits some of his ult. Abrams Seismic Impact Tier 3 now also increases radius by 6. Okay, well, if he maxes out, it's going to negate this change. Apollo fixed riposte now leaving the ground when started on the ground. That's beautiful. That's beautiful changes right there. I feel like Melee Abrams still the same because all the other nerfs on heroes just leveled the field, bro. You'll see. Okay. If you scroll way up in chat, I already told you Abrams got nerfed. Next, let's go. Bro, I'm going. I got to see these things, bro. See, like, this is pretty good. Because now Apollo, his 2 is going to feel better. You don't have to jump to do it. You can just do it. Riposte no longer triggers from troopers or neutral damage. That's good. Flawless Advanced Tier 2 no longer increases Apollo's lunge speed. I feel like they didn't really do anything already. Flawless Advance now gets interrupted by stuns and sleep. That's good. Tiny Losan base damage reduced from 225 to 190. Spirit scaling increased from 1.6 to 2.3. That might be good. So he's not going to be as broken early, but late game he might have more of a chance. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Tiny Losan hit with no longer scales with radius increases. Oh, so it only goes further forward and not further wider. Bebop hook can now be canceled. That is so good. Wait, only one change. That's actually a good change for Bebops that are terrible with their hooks and keep hooking their teammates. Just unhook me, bro. Just unhook me. Holy patch though. What's up, TD? Sorry, my grandma told me to say that. CD's nuts. Bro, fuck you. Billy bash down radius reduced. Okay. Bash down to 2 change from plus 1.3 meter radius to 1 charge plus 2 meter radius. He's going to be bashing down a lot more. Bash down 2-3 now also reduces charge time by 2 seconds. Holy. Rising ram damage reduced. Good. Rising ram damage spirit scaling increased. Ooh. Yeah, he's not going to be building spirit like that, so this is good too. Billy's like nerfed. Rising ram cooldown reduced by 50% on impact. What was it before? Rising ram charge duration reduced from 0.51 seconds to 0.3 seconds. Does that mean he charges faster? Oh, before he starts charging. Rising ram tier 1 change from on impact minus 50% cooldown to on impact plus 20. Damn, son. Billy rising ram tier 2 changed from on impact plus 35. Oh. To plus 3 per second charge duration. What does that mean? Does that mean like he'll charge for further, or he can like kind of hold his charge? I think he's gonna charge further. I wonder if that Bebop thing. How's it going, Big Dog? Going pretty good. I like these changes. Bad change. I don't miss my hooks. Yes, you do. You've hooked me before. Would work the other way. What do you mean would work the other way? Like if you grab your teammate, does your teammate have the option to push a button to cancel it? Yeah, your teammate already has that option in the game. It's just people don't have quick enough reaction time to like cancel that because they don't expect to get hooked by their own teammate. This shit's some zen ass music. This is Dark Souls 1 main menu music, TD. That would be dope if they do that. If it doesn't work like that, yeah, it already works like that. Dark Souls music is so far. Come on, fuck with me, man. Billy Rising Ram 2-3 increase from 6.5% max health to 8%. When you hit somebody? What? Billy blasted spirit scaling reduced. Okay. Billy blasted active duration no longer slows down the decay when doing bullet damage. Melee still extends it though. Oh, that's good. Billy blasted pass no longer reduces enemy fire rate by 14. That's good. Blasted tooltip simplified. Okay. Blasted tier 3 now also increased spirit scaling by 0.6. I feel like you're not really building that much spirit. Chain gang radius reduced. I like that. Chain gang no longer grants plus 15 spirit and bullet resist. Oh. He less tanky. Chain gang cooldown increased. Oh, okay. Billy got kind of nerfed. Chain gang tier 1. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's been kind of nerfed from before. Chain gang tier 1 changed from minus 25 second cooldown to plus 40%. Oh, never mind. I take back what I just said. He got buffed. Chain gang tier 2 changed from plus 15% spirit and bullet resist to minus 50 second cooldown. Yeah, for sure. Chain gang tier 3 changed from 2 second unstoppable to plus 1.3 seconds unstoppable for each hero pulled in. That's unique. I like that. Chain gang tier 3 no longer grants plus 90 damage. Ooh, tier 3 now also increases radius by 5. Well, that's good. Calico! Here we go, chat. Here we fucking go. What in the Billy rework? Here we go, chat. Buckle in. Oh, you're cooked? Let's see. Bullets no longer have gravity. Buff. Now fires an additional pellet right down the center. DPS is the same, so I'm just more likely to hit my shots. The center pellet is now considered the primary pellet for headshots. What does that mean? Gloom bombs change so that the first grenade always lands in the middle. Oh, so it's easier to land at least one gloom bomb. Gloom bombs projectile sticky radius increased. So they go further before they blow up. Gloom bombs cast delay reduced. Oh, so this comes out even faster. Gloom, well, I mean, that doesn't really do anything. Gloom bomb tier 2 changed from plus 16.2 damage to plus 75 bonus damage versus... Buff of the gods! Buff of the gods! Buff of the gods! Holy buff! People want to get some barriers? Paige wants to do some bull? Nah! You're gonna take this dick! You're gonna take this dick! Hell yeah. Leapy Slash improved targeting of dash to end early if... I've been talking about this since I started playing Calico, bruh. Oh my goodness, we got Kane Q in Deadlock on Calico. Dude, Kane has been revived. Oh, my Lanta. Oh. That means my 2's gonna come out faster, which means it's gonna go off cooldown faster, which means I don't have to dash back. Oh my goodness, chat. Dude, I'm about to be the best Calico of all time. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm already in that, but like, I'm about to be even better. And Point Blank got changed too. Oh! Excuse me. Let's keep reading. Leapy Slash can now dash vertically when what? Yes! Chair abuse. Hey, it deserves it. This chair fucks up my tailbone sometimes, hey, bro. Why are you smashing your chair? Fuck this chair. Okay. Leapy Slash tier 2 changed from plus 40 damage to plus 300 souls on hero kill? She got Vindicta money. I want to kill people. I mean, I guess I'll... I mean, I guess I will scale into late game. But, like... Leapy Slash tier 3 changed from minus 50% cooldown on hit to minus 50% cooldown. Oh my gosh, bro, Doogie, what? I think I might max out my 2 before I max out my ultimate now. I think I might max out my 2 before I max out my ultimate now. Maybe. This might be Big The's best day ever. Are you kidding me? Point Blank works now. And I get plus 20 damage. And I get plus souls on kill. Bro. Yes, dude. Sleepy slash radius reduced from 4.5. That does not matter to me. It was already dog shit. I have gotten it down to a T. That doesn't do anything. Ava can no longer manipulate movement if meleeing while midair. Oh yeah. You could like jump in one direction and then melee in another direction. Yeah. Ava now uses health bar modifier style for duration. I don't know what that means. Ava fixed camera not being centered around Ava. Yeah, that was weird. I'm happy they're changing that. Ava melee attack delay reduced. Oh, so the melee actually comes out immediately. I like that. Melee attack cooldown increased. That's whatever. Melee attack now goes the way you are looking. Oh, wow. Queen Calico, bruh. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I have a newfound love for Calico again. Like, I've been revived in my Calico love. Unless they change the ultimate tier 3 to something, I don't know. I might still go tier 3 ultimate because it resets your 2. But the plus 60 damage is kind of nice. You feel me? Like, I'm going to be hurting people. Yeah, no, I'm going to be hurting people. Because the ultimate gives 18% damage. But like 60 damage? Yeah, nah. It might be GG's, bro. Ava now starts at a minimum speed and increased to maximum speed over time, resetting on taking damage. Okay, that's fair. Ava now gradually recovers speed. Oh, it's gonna be harder for me to escape now. That's fine. Ava now gradually recovers speed over time after taking damage rather than being slowed for the entire duration. That might be good too. It might feel good. Ava cooldown reduced. Oh! Ava duration reduced. It's fine. Ava tier 1 duration increased. Ava tier 2 changed from plus 45 speed to plus 45 speed and health regen. Calico's broken, bro. Calico's gonna get nerfed all over the place. Ava tier 3 changed from minus 20% cooldown and plus 35 health regen to a growing damage amp the longer you are transformed. Oh! Calico is officially an off carry, bro. What? Bro, Dougie. What's up, peace? The health bar, what means your max health increased Ava duration? Oh. Oh. Okay. Well, then that's another buff. Hello. I am late to the stream, but I had to analyze all of this shit because everyone is nutty late game. I'm banning the fuck out of Mo. Really? You don't got to do all that to my boy Mo. Nope. Don't say Calico's broken. You'll see why Ava got that amp. Look at how everyone got resist or shred, and you'll instead why Calico needed it. You'll understand. Wait, why did I say instead? You'll understand why Calico needed it. Not going to lie to you, bro. Calico's broke. Look, no matter what you tell me, bro, the stuff that I have read for Calico, no matter what happens to anybody else, because the only real problems to Calico are like Abrams, Silver if she's on top of you, Yamato if she's fed. Yeah, that's about it, man. I'm not gonna lie. That's about it. Like, my build is so good. Yo, that Spirit Trap buff. Just look at Drifter and Doorman. Just wait. I don't think you guys understand how good Calico is now. You guys don't understand. I haven't even read her ultimate changes yet. Finally something to fuck up M and K entire game. Wait, what's Spirit Trap? I blame Taz for Drifter, bro. Return to Shadows now allows for some vertical flight movement during channel. Oh, but not downward. Return to Shadow now has a new channel bar. Okay. Return to Shadows tier 2 reduced from 67.5 damage to 65. Doesn't matter to me. Return to Shadows tier 3 no longer grants plus 18% damage amp for 6 seconds, but grants 350 health instead. Yeah, we're maxing 2 first, chat. I'm not gonna lie. We're maxing 2. Yeah, we're maxing 2. And then we'll max all. Oh my gosh. I mean, it still gives the reset, so I'm gonna max my ultimate last. I mean, my ultimate after my 2, but we're getting the 2 first. The only reason I was maxing the 3 first was because of the damage amp. Now that that's no longer a thing, I'll be fine without this HP. I've been fine without the HP. And now, chat, Glass Cannon? I can buy Glass Cannon earlier, but Colossus got melee. Oh my gosh, bro. My build is so optimized. Jeez. Spirit Trap. Wait, that's a new item? I didn't see that item. I saw the golden win experience. We're not saying Calico isn't good. These changes are nice for her, but it's needed given that the other players got these crazy ass buffs, plus Melee got buffed too, so you're so happy, I bet. Yeah, so Calico is gonna get bro. Since Melee got buffed and Calico got buffed, people got resist. I don't give a fuck. My Gloom Bombs get rid of your fucking shielding? Wait. Oh, it's a tier 2 on it, though. So I won't get that till late game. But it doesn't really matter because of the extra damage I do on my 2. Bro is actually the big yah. Yahoo? Just wait until he sees. Alright. We'll get there. Okay. We're literally right there, too. Celeste, gravity reduced from... Ooh, less gravity. It should say gravity increased. That's dumbass wording. I'm not gonna lie. Celeste air control acceleration reduced from. Mina. Jinky Bobby with the follow. Welcome to the Akatsuki. Thank you. Appreciate that, bro. Welcome in, dude. Welcome in, bro. What's up, bro? Kelvin is so back. We'll see. Oh, Calico's the gate. Okay. Air control acceleration reduced from plus 50/18%. What does that mean? To plus 38 plus 12%. Less air control and acceleration. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I like that she had a unique movement, but I mean, I guess it's still going to be unique because she's still going to have a lot of air control and stuff. But reduce her stamina amount, bro. Celeste Shining Wonder bounce range reduced. Oh my gosh. Linger duration reduced. Oh my gosh. She's no longer that big of a problem. Okay, Doorman. Holy fucking shit. Gun now pierces through targets at 50% reduced damage. So his gun's broken, is what I'm hearing. So if I get Ricochet, right? If I get Ricochet and shoot through somebody to somebody else, and then that bullet hits somebody else, does that bullet also then hit the other person? Bro, Diggy, I'm not gonna lie, Ricochet might be broken. If that is how that works. Call build time between charges increased. Oh, the bell was the biggest problem for me with Doorman. No longer has impact damage, was 40 with 1 scaling. Oh, that's also good. Wait, his bell's no longer a problem. Call bell explosion damage increased. Oh my shit. Call bell explosion damage spirit scaling reduced. So early game he's gonna piss me off. But it doesn't have impact damage. Call bell tier 1 increased from plus 2 meters to plus 2.5 meters. Damn. Tier 2 no longer has impact damage. Okay. Tier 2 explosion damage increased. Oh my gosh, bro. What the fuck? Tier 2 now increases spirit scaling. Oh my gosh. Call bell tier 3 changed from impact causes half radius explosion to plus 1 charge and plus 22-second lifetime 22 seconds? Causes the radius to continuously apply its slow. That is something. Now, honestly, I'd rather the rat than Benjamin than Doorman now. Well, that's gonna be interesting. However, the lack of impact damage is good for me because I go into Doormans, man. The Doormans are scared of me, so him leaving that on the ground, this is not gonna do anything to me. And no impact damage is good for me. Doorman now has a timer icon above the ability. Oh, that's good. Doorway, is that for Doorman or for everybody? Doorman tier 1 duration increased from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. Doorway tier 2 barrier duration increased. Ooh. Tier 3 doorway distance now also scales with spirit power. Yeah, throw this away. That is terrible. Bro, fuck no. You want him to just go all the way across the map with his door? No, we're trolling. You gotta increase the cooldown or something. Yo, what? Luggage cart is now 20% larger, 20% wider hitbox as well. Okay, it's fine. I mean, you definitely get knocked into walkers now. Cart tier 1 change from minus 8% cooldown to 60 damage. Holy spirit damage. Luggage cart tier 2 increased from plus 15 meter cast range to 20. Why? Why would you make it go further? It already goes forever. Luggage cart tier 3 changed from plus 45 cart damage and 117 wall damage and 1.2 second wall stun to 1.5 second wall stun and minus 50 second cooldown. Oh, so the wall doesn't do damage. That's good. I like that. But no, they need to get rid of that 20% meter. Fixed issue where the cart would hit a target coming out of the hotel before they were supposed to. Hotel guest cast range increased. No longer goes on cooldown if the target dies during cast. It's fine. I guess that's fine. Hotel guest fixed enemies not always landing in the correct spot on return. That's good. That's a good change. Now supports instant cast settings. That's fine. Hotel guest returning guest now has 100% time slow that decays to 0% over 1 second. That's fine. Hotel guest cost of stay duration reduced. Oh, so you have to get out faster. Holy shit. No, that's damage. That's fine. Hotel guest failure to check out damage reduced. That's also fine. Guest tier 1 changed from plus 2 meter cash range to minus 1 stamina and minus 25 second cooldown. Okay, that's going to be annoying. Because when you get in there, you're just going to have less... Oh my gosh. Restorative Locket. Change from unstoppable while channeling to 1.5 second stun on failure to check out. Huh? Oh, so you can stop him while he's channeling now. But whenever you come out of whenever you don't make it, you are now stunned for 1.5 seconds. And you take 150 damage. Hopefully that's not on top of the failure. Hopefully it's not a plus 150. Hopefully it's a change to 150 instead of 125. Doorman Hotel tier 3 changed from minus 50 second cooldown to unstoppable. Oh. Wait. Unstoppable while hotel's occupied? What is 10 second cooldown on failure to check out? Bro, the gay. So the whole time they're in his Baroness, he's unstoppable? Bruh. Playing Cal now, and this is how she's supposed to feel. Great. Yes, sir. Come on. Oh, you're going to hate Mina, by the way. Just saying, you're really going to hate the change. Am I? I like Mina. Hopefully it's a good change for her. Throw it away. He can already go half a map. Yeah, that's ridiculous, bro. I cannot wait until you see Mina. I'm gonna laugh. There's no way. When they can't get out, he gets 10 seconds of CD. What does that mean, Ka? You just said what it said. What is that? What did you just reset what was already on the screen? What does that mean? Doorman is unstoppable for 10 seconds? Or it's minus 10 seconds to all of his ability cooldown or his ultimate cooldown? Or the person that fails to check out, their cooldowns go on C. Like, there's a bunch of 10-second cooldown on failure to check out. Like, who is that applying to? What is that applying to? Your cooldown is 60 seconds for ult. Drifter's gonna knock the socks off. So the one thing you hate about her, they buffed. Her sanguine retreat? There's no way they gave her 3, right? There's absolutely no way. If I get sent to the hotel and can't escape, your cooldown is 60 seconds for ult. And if I get sent to the hotel and can't escape, they give Doorman QO seconds. What does QO mean? Back. Cool. Is that cooldown seconds? Back for his ult? Oh, wait. So if people fail to leave the Baroness, he can ult in 10 seconds. Doorman's support kind of valid with these changes, yo. With Transcendent 48 seconds plus the minus 10 seconds. That means he gets his Baroness hotel is on silver cooldown at a whopping 38 seconds. Well, that's only if people can't make it out. But it's when you get to late game, people are going to be able to get out pretty easily. So that's not going to be a problem. Drifter rend damage reduced. Range damage, holy. Rend cooldown increased, okay. Damage spirit scaling increased, okay. Bonus damage is now the melee range at close range, so you only do melee damage at close range, and spirit is the default. Oh. So he's going to be building more spirit for the Rend. Rend to tier 1 bonus damage increased by 8. Tier 3 changed from gain 45% bullet lifesteal against affected enemies for 4 seconds to close range attack. Now silences enemies for 2.3 seconds. Well, the good thing is you can always get away from people. Unless he gets like greater expansion. Stalker's mark duration reduced. Okay. Tier 1 changed from plus 1% bleed to minus 8% bullet resist. That's good for him. He's going to do more weapon damage, but if you like disarming hex him. Tier 2 changed from plus 22% fire rate for 6 seconds after ambush to plus 3% duration and minus 8% cooldown. I actually don't like him having more fire rate, so this is good for me. Tier 3 change from enables 2 charges and plus 2 duration to plus 2% bleed and minus 4% healing. Oh, that's good. That's good against Victor and Abrams, so they don't heal as much. I like that change. That makes sense. Blood Scent now grants Drifter the same amount of permanent bonus weapon damage when an isolated hero dies nearby, whether Drifter gets the assist or the kill. Okay, I thought that was already a thing, but now it's for sure a thing. Drifter Blood Scent permanent bonus weapon damage gain per isolated hero death reduced from 4 to 3. Okay, so he scales worsely. Drifter Blood Scent tier 2 change from isolated kill reduces cooldown by 15 seconds. Restores 3 stamina to as a death restores 80% missing health and restores 2 stamina. I like that. That makes Drifter feel like how he's supposed to be played. Eternal Night now makes the targets be considered as isolated. Oh! That's good! It's already 5 seconds of bleed with duration extended to 10. That means 20% of your health off of 1 Stalker's Mark. Well, now you're just going to have to get debuff remover. I mean, Dispel Magic. That's fine. I don't think that's that big of a problem. I think this is good. This is good, and the 18% missing health on kill Those are going to be the things that are going to like keep him alive in fights. I might like playing him a little bit more now. The Eternal Knight actually makes more sense because it actually makes the isolated make more sense. Eternal Knight sprint reduced. Okay. Eternal Knight no longer has 7 spirit damage proc. Fine. Eternal Knight cooldown increased. Okay, didn't do nothing. Duration reduced. Okay, it's fine. That's actually, no, I mean, this might be a little better. Tier 1, change from plus 3.3 spirit damage proc to 10 meter sprint. Meh! Kicks in immediately. Does that mean he moves that fast? He moves that fast in the ultimate? Oh my gosh! He's gonna feel fun. Eternal Knight tier 2 change from minus 30% cooldown and plus 3 speed. Okay. So we got rid of speed there. And reduced speed here. So he's down 4 speed. So this is actually going to be 6 sprint speed is what it's going to feel like. To minus 45-second cooldown. Wow. Tonight, tier 3 increase from plus 2 second duration and plus 1 max target to plus 2.5 second duration plus 1 max target. Damn, he's going to have Eternal Knight for a long time. I like the Drifter changes. That seems cool. He feels better. Like he's going to be actually good in 1v1s with his ultimate. Like his ultimate before is like, whatever. But now it's like good for him to do that. Drifter is the Nightcrawler. It's actually going to be so tough. Drifter's going to feel... I might like playing Drifter a little bit more now. Just because of these changes. Dynamo bullet damage increased. Okay. Kinetic pulse cooldown increased. Okay. Damage increased. Okay. Kinetic pulse range reduced. Okay. Range no longer increased with spirit scaling. Nice! I really hated that. Nice. Kinetic pulse spirit scaling. Is it spirit damage scaling? So it's going to do more damage if he goes into spirit, but he's not going to have more range. Kinetic pulse tier 1 change from 35% movement slow and minus 30% fire rate to plus 1 charge. Ooh, shot. Kinetic pulse tier 2 change from plus 30% bullet damage for 8 seconds to reduce enemy bullet resistance by 18% and movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. Okay, so he's more of a support with that. Then tier 3 change from plus 104 damage and 1 charge to plus 135. Oh. Okay, that's going to be if you want to go more into a spirit damage dynamo, okay? That's fair. Dynamo quantum entanglement no longer grants fire rates. Is that is that where he goes invulnerable? No longer reloads ammo. Base ability now restores 1 stamina. Oh wow. Ally distance increased. Oh wow. Increased. Okay. Increased from 4 minutes to... Oh my range, bro. Changed from 20% fire rate to 6 second cooldown. Okay. Changed from minus 5 second cooldown and plus 120% ammo to dispels non-ultimate debuffs for you and your allies. That's going to be... Yeah, okay. So Dynamo is a really good support. Now. It's mini teleport. Okay, bet. Rejuvenating aura cooldown increased. Ooh. 1 second linger on allies. Fair. Now I'll let you jump while using it. Oh, you couldn't jump before? That's weird. Tier 1 change from plus 4% movement speed for 8 seconds after full channel to aura provides plus 4 movement speed during channel. That makes more sense. Cooldown increase or decrease. Tier 2 now also increases duration. Okay. No longer does 1.5 max health DPS. Ooh! DPS increased. It's fine. Singularity DPS spirit scaling increased. Fine. Singularity tier 3 increased from 4% max health DPS to... Oh my. Oh my, tier 3. So, yeah, he feels even like a better support. Better support. Gray's grasping hand is now set up to work through proper alternate cast methods and be more responsive. Is that like just a quality of life? Grabbing hands immobilize. Oh, no. That's the thing on the ground. Graduation hand mobile duration reduced. Fairs. Graduation hand cooldown reduced. Fairs. And hands tier 2 change from 0.75 immobilized duration to 90 damage and 10 meter wall length. Ooh. Graduation hand tier 3 change from plus 15 meter wall length and minus 10 second cooldown to plus 1 second mobilized duration. Minus. Okay. Okay. I was only on her grasping hand too. QOL. What does that mean? Hey, spirit per boon reduced. Okay. Sleep dagger, sleep move, speed reduced. So you move slower? Sleep dagger, wake up delay no longer increases with spirit scan. Oh my, that's good. So she can't just like ult you as long. So you're gonna be able to counter her. That's good for other people, not good for her. Sleep dagger cooldown increased. Holy shit. Sleep dagger, sleep duration reduced. Oh my gosh. Sleep dagger 2 when changed from removes 1 stamina to minus 8% bullet resist reduction. Oh, that's good. That's good. Your dagger 2. That's good for her. Change from minus 12% cooldown and minus 6% stamina for 6 seconds to minus 15%. Only 15-second cooldown? Yo, Hayes got nerfed. Sleep dagger 2 change from minus 12% bullet resist and minus 35% fire rate for 6 seconds on wake up to 0.75 sleep duration, minus 50% move and dash slow for 2.5 on wake. So that's like you're probably not getting tier 3 on her like that for real. But that's, yeah, you're not getting tier 3 on her anymore probably. Maybe, I don't know. Smoke bomb cooldown increased. Duration spirit scaling reduced. No longer has base 2, so she moves slower. Tier 1 increased. Oh, so she moves faster. Yeah, it just got put into her tier 1. Smoke bomb tier 2 changed from 2 ability charges. She's gonna be invisible the entire game. Changed from enable 2 charges. Oh wait, that was already a thing. And grants 0.5 seconds of invincibility to dispels not ultimate debuffs and grants. Oh snap! Okay, that's she's gonna have a lot. You're gonna have to get healing reduction for her, but she's no longer invincible, which is good. Smoke bomb tier 3 now also grants plus 1 charge. So she's gonna have 3 charges of smoke bomb. Are we fucking serious? Fixation reduced from. So she's gonna do less gun damage. But she's gonna have more spirit bullet lifesteal. Tier 1 spirit scaling increased. Tier 1 reduced from plus 50 spirit damage to plus 40. Tier 3 increased from 0.12 weapon damage to 0.14. Yo, she's getting nerfed. She's gonna be more of just a pick character. Bullet dance fire rate bonus reduced. Bullet dance base ability now has 60% evasion. Bullet dance duration spirit scaling increased. Bonus bullet damage reduced. Increased from plus 4 bullet damage to plus 7. Oh, wow. Bullet dance tier 2 now also increased fire rate by 10. Tier 3 no longer adds 6% bullet evasion. Tier 3 now also fires at an additional target. Oh, wow. Okay, so her ultimate, you can play off of her ultimate a lot more now. This is what it feels like. Like she can actually kill multiple people. I really don't want to seem like I'm only watching you for the code, but will you be doing codes today? Yeah, I got you. Just put your code in the chat. I didn't know that's what you were waiting for. Put your code. I got you, bro. He's the first guy I know who reads patch notes. Bro, what? Mad people read patch notes. Yeah, put your friend code in the chat and I got you. Brother, you're going to want to have cow kids. Is it that good, dope? Is he that good? He's kind of deserves a nerf. Let's be dead ass for real. No one is playing the game right now. I think every Deadlock creator is reviewing the notes. Yeah, so just put your friend code in the chat and I got you, bro. I'll literally do it right now the second you send it. But I'm looking at this right now. We're almost halfway through now, chat. Furnace napalm damage reduced. Okay. Napalm damage spirit scaling increased. Okay. Amplified damage taken reduced. Amplified damage taken reduced. Tier 2 lifesteal increased. Oh. More survivability. Flame Dash, DPS, Spirit Scaling increase. So he's doing a lot more damage based off of if you get more Spirit. So he needs to farm up more. Flame Dash, Tier 1 change from -20 to bonus cooldown. Ew. Tier 2 DPS reduced by 7. Tier 2 DPS now also increased trail duration. Ooh, I mean, it's fine. Tier 3 no longer reduces cooldown by 15. That's just like the quality, like how it feels is going to be different. Now also grants a +1 charge. Oh, so he's going to be able to flame dash more. Tier 3 time between charges reduced. Jeez, man. Melee can now build up afterburn, 20% for light melee, 35% for heavy. Afterburn tier 1 changed from -20% spirit damage to 14 DPS. I could have Val game during this. Okay, well, I'm gonna add you. I need you to add me back, bruh. I think, like, Ivy changes, to be honest. Like, she's more spirit. Ivy's more spirit? What was she before? Was she more gun before? I gotta add. What did I miss? Just be ready to add me back. Let me fill this real quick. Yo, why are you inviting me, bruh? Ew. Why does it look like that now? Oh my gosh. Did I not hit this? Oh my gosh! Yo! Wait. Oh my gosh. Trying to play? No, I'm not trying to play right now. I'm reading patch notes. Wait. Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna get Stalker. That's not worth. Why did I do it twice right there? Colossus. I know Big Duz is kicking his feet under the table. My legs are too long. I can't actually do that. Did you add me back? Okay. Alright. Jinky Bobby, you will get the game within 10 minutes to 2 days. Just check your Steam email. Back to the patch notes. Sorry, chat. I had to look at that. I'm not gonna lie, chat. I'm gonna be the best Calico of all time. Does this mean Venator melee? Oh no. It's too good. I'm gonna do so much damage, chat. Oh my gosh, bro. I'm gonna do so much damage. Thank you so much, Twin. Hey, no problem. Let me know. Let me know how you feel about the game after playing it. Have you played any MOBAs before, by the way? I know you like playing E-Date Simulator, Valorant. Okay, back to this. Chat, should we change up the music? Music's getting kind of old and boring. Music's getting a little boring. Music's getting a smidgen bit boring, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of putting people to sleep, no? Switch up just a bit. Switch up just a bit. Okay. After burn, tier 2 change from plus 1 second burn duration to minus 35% spirit damage. So people do less spirit damage in his presence if he gets this on him? Interesting. Tier 3 change from plus 23 DPS to plus 3% max burn duration. Base duration is the same, but can build up after igniting to grow to max burn duration. Abilities only refresh up to the base. I don't know what that means, chat, but it sounds good for Infernus players. Concussive combustion cast now causes camera to move back a bit. That's good, because you couldn't really see before. Delay increased. Oh, you're going to have to time it a little bit better. Or just differently. Radius reduced from... Oh, okay. Well, he has 2 charges on his flame dash, so he can just run again, no? Increase from 140 to 160. Oh my god, damage reduced. Tier 1 change from minus 35 second cooldown to plus 100 damage. Wow. Plus 0.5 second stun and plus 3 meter radius. I played Overwatch since release. So that means you've never played a MOBA. Okay, well... Just know, Jinky, you're probably going to be dog shit. I recommend you going to my YouTube channel and watching this video for the roles, but let me give you an even faster way to figure this out. What characters did you play in Overwatch? But yeah, watch this roles explained video on my YouTube channel, The Big A. If you're not following or subscribed on YouTube, subscribe. Please and thank you. All right. Oh, Oris. Who is Oris? So we are happy, right, Rusty? You have no idea how fast I'm about to shoot to Eternus with these changes, bruh. You have no idea. Orisa. Okay, you might like Abrams and maybe Victor. And speak of the devil, Rusty himself plays, he's the rank 1 Victor. So if you like Victor, after watching my YouTube video, I highly recommend you following Rusty, because he can show you some crazy Victor plays because he's rank 1 in NA. Billy also. Does Orisa play like Billy? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe try looking at Billy too. But yeah, bruh. Enjoy the game. Let me know. 2 and 1. Is that how Orisa plays? Okay. Okay. Explosion heal? What? What is that? So, like, is that 65% of the damage he does, he heals from? He's winning 1v1s. From plus 94 damage and heal for 7% damage. Oh, never mind. To plus 75 second stun and 10 minute radius. Okay, well, never mind. I thought that was new. Wait, Victor, Billy, and who? Abrams! Abrams, Victor, and Billy. 2 hours in, bro. Still looking at patch notes. I was watching something else first, Timbo. Relax. Ivy! Chat, we were like officially still not halfway, but we're getting really close. We're going to be here all day. No, I'm reading. Chat, do y'all want me to just read in my head? If I read in my head, then I can get through it faster. I'm trying to like talk it through and explain what my thought process behind it. Ivy Thanos. I can just read in my head. Thank you. No problem. Ivy, I like that she's more spirit. Okay. Now has 10% gravity. What? Bullet damage reduced. Okay, less bullet damage because the bomb renamed to Entangled Thorns. So she doesn't say Cutso Bomb anymore. Entangled Thorns recharge time. Spirit scaling reduced. Then go check out the show. Hey, don't forget to hit that sub button. Chat complaining like they can't just read it themselves. Chudso is lost media. Entangling thorns. Spirit scaling reduced. +2 duration to 2 meter radius and increased spirit scaling. Oh, man. Remain in it for 2 seconds? Wait. Entangles enemies that remain in it for 2 seconds. Okay. Last 1.7. Wow! That's pretty good. So you throw that out and then you hit your 1? Or you hit your 3 on them and then you throw out your 1? Man. Maybe getting Mystic Slow would be good too. Watcher's Covenant renamed to Cutso Connection. Cutso Connection, fire rate, spirit scaling reduced. Okay. Bullet lifesteal, spirit scaling reduced. Tier 1 change from 8 fire rate to 2 meter move speed bonus. Interesting. From move speed bonus and bullet lifesteal. Ooh. Who until their count to ability is now always active. Abilities now always active? Bruh. I'm here for VIPW. Ivy is actually crazy. What? I'm here for Big Dust's reaction to patch notes. He still has a few crazy character changes to see. Definitely. That's real as fuck. W. Listen. Always active is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. She's gonna have so much more healing. That's so good. Stone form cooldown increased. Okay. Spirit scaling reduced. And so you heal for a lot if you hit that ability? Or is it just as you're using it, you just heal? Damage and stun to minus 25% cooldown. Oh, the stun no longer an increase in stun. Interesting. Well, I guess the 1 kind of makes up for that by keeping them in place. Storm form tier 3, 30% max health. Heal to 1 second stun, increase spirit scaling. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Stone form max scaling is now better than Hayes knife, by the way. 2.8. What? That's crazy. Just join. Why does Ivy have less gravity? I don't know what that means. Like she can't fly as high or something because she's heavy? It would make sense because she's a stone, but it would also make sense that she shouldn't have 3 stamina. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. She's literally a stone. She's a stone. Airdrop cast time removed. Instead, if you take damage, the ability will be unable to be used for 3.5 seconds. Oh! So if you shoot Ivy coming in, then she can't airdrop. Spirit damage scaling reduced. Cooldown reduced. Ew! I don't like that. Duration increased. Oh my gosh. Base max speed increased. It didn't increase the base speed. It just increased the max speed. Bomb radius increased. Buff duration reduced, actually. Ally cast range increased. Now grants you and your ally 20% outgoing damage after dropping. Ooh, that's really good. No longer has a fast explode expanding behavior. No longer causes knockup. No longer slows on explode by default. No longer provides barrier by default. Interesting. Tier 1 changed from minus 20% bullet resist on enemies hit for 8 seconds to grant you and an allied 300 barrier plus 1 spirit scaling last 12 seconds. Damn, that's pretty good. Airdrop tier 2 changed from 200 barrier and 5 meter explode radius to explode applies 50% slow for 3 seconds. So then you throw the Cutso bomb or the entanglement, whatever the fuck that her 1, and then they definitely are getting out. Tier 3 now also increases damage scaling by 1.5 and barrier scaling. Oh my gosh. We're keeping one person alive. Frost Grenade and now impacts on Ice Path for Kelvin. Wait, so it would go through the Ice Path before? Frost Grenade radius reduced. Frost Grenade cooldown increased. Oh, shit. Frost Grenade now comes with 2... Ew, there it is. Frost Grenade now heals in the base ability 60 plus 9. Oh, yeah, he's more of a support. Frost Grenade no longer has a minus 40% stamina regen reduction. Okay. Tier 1 grants from... Wait. Change from 1 charge to increase damage and heal by 30. Yeah, Kelvin might be top 3 supports now. Frost Grenade Tier 2 change from provides healing. Freezes stamina regeneration. Minus 10-second cooldown. So you can't for how long? How long? Frost Grenade Tier 3 change from plus 144 damage and minus 30-second stamina regen. To increase damage and heal spirit scaling by... Oh my gosh, he's gonna heal like nobody's business. What's up, Kako? Yes, but why? I don't know, man. She floatier like Celeste. No, wait. Does Ivy have less gravity? Oh, wait, she can fly more. I'm trolling. I guess she can just hover in the sky more. And air targets are harder to hit, so I guess they're trying to increase her mobility in air. Yeah. Kelvin, my main. W. Yo, she's smoking that good stuff. Yep, this is really good. My Wraith character might be back. Looky. Okay, chat. I think we're like about halfway now, no? We're like halfway now. No, I feel like we may still not be halfway. Oh, canceled on ability button press instead of space. Tier 1 change from +4 sprint to +2 movement speed. And +35 bullet resistance on Ice Path. On the Ice Path, interesting. Ice Path Tier 2 increase from -70% cooldown to -20. Tier 3 now grants you +35 spirit power while on Ice Path. So does that mean you're going to heal even more while you're on the Ice Path? It does. And do more damage. Arctic Beam visual clarity on VFX improved. Nice. Now lets you cast Frost Grenade and items while using it. Interesting. Arctic Beam max fire rate reduction reduced. Okay. Beam max slow reduced from 40 to 20. Beam spirit scaling reduced. Beam cooldown increased. Tier 1 change from -7-second cooldown to increased movement slow and fire rate reduction by -25%. Okay. These might be the longest patch notes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. I still have until Sunday, right? I'm so happy Kelvin is out of being in that pit he's been in for almost like 7 months. Kelvin is broken now. Yeah, Kelvin's gonna be healing like nobody's business. They need to buff Healbane and Toxic Bullets and Crippling Headshot. I think they need to buff all of those now that these supports are healing a lot more. Like Ivy's constantly healing. Kelvin can heal. Has 2 charges off rip that heal off rip. Every character is like completely different this patch. Yeah, it's like quality of life changes that make sense. Like Kelvin already having heal on the frost thing is fire. Tier 2 change from 33 DPS to 20 and spirit scaling. Okay. So as long as you're on the Ice Path, everything else that you do will just do more damage. So keep that in mind if you're playing Kelvin. You want to be on the Ice Path as much as possible because it gives you spirit power, and then everything else has spirit scaling. That's how you want to play him. He's going to be on the Ice Path a lot. Now also reduces cooldown. Frozen Shelter can now be canceled first without canceling Ice Beam. Well, that was kind of stupid. Is now 8 meters unit target. Creates the dome around the center of both heroes. Can be self-casted to create it around yourself. This is gonna be this is like top tier thinking play. I don't think a lot of Kelvins are gonna be doing this. They're gonna like just spam it on themselves instead of putting it on other people. I think maybe. Kelvin frozen shelter duration reduced. Frozen shelter 2 when change from -3% enemy fire rate to -25% cooldown. Increase from +1 seconds to. What is that? I don't know what that tier 2 means. Just 1 second. What? Tier 3 now also dispels non-ult debuffs on cast. Affects you and allies. That's good. Good support, Kelvin, bruh. Lady Geist and Lash. Yeah. Hey. Essence Bomb self-damage changed from 30 plus 1 inch scaling to 30. Damage base is 90. Huh? Oh, the scaling doesn't go up. Wait, 30% versus just 30? Okay. I feel like that's a buff. Lady Guy's Essence Bomb radius reduced from 9 meters to 7 meters. Nice! Cooldown reduced. That's whatever. Tier 1 increased from -4 seconds to -5 seconds. Tier 2 also increased radius by +2 meters. Okay. So it just goes back to this if you get it to tier 2. Life drain cooldown increased by 4 seconds. Life drain break range reduced. Nice. Life drain tier 1 DPS increased. Life drain tier 2 duration increased. Tier 3 change from increased from 1 to 2. What the fuck does that mean? Life drain tier 3 now also increases spirit scaling. Jeez. Soul exchange cast time reduced. Oh my, yeah, you're not counterspelling her anymore. Soul exchange post cast. What does it mean by hold time? Like they just sit in one place? Doorman, new Shiv? Nah, there's no way, Kako. Every character is like a completely different buff. Buff the items everyone already buys, yeah. Okay, but Chud. He's overtuned as fuck now, but he's actually playable, not a F tier support. Sorry, but Kelvin freezing stam regen is sexy. Tier 2 is duration. Okay, Lash has the best buff in the game. I'm installing right now. W Jinky, bruh. I forgot, is it Mirage and Mina 2.0 now? Holy shit! Yo, how do y'all read this so fast? Postcast hold time reduced from... Chat, I think I'm gonna just read it in my head until I see something crazy. Or I'm on a character that I care about, which would be Mina. '60 spirit power when she casts her ult. So she doesn't. She can just use this while she has more HP now to just do more damage. And fire rate and spirit resist. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Lady Geist is gonna be really good. I'm not gonna lie. That's a crazy change. Wow. And a 10k item that when you buy it, you can just kill one person on the enemy team. No cooldown. What the fuck? Been reading for the last hour and actively testing. W. Oh, Geist is buffed, huh? Yeah. I read as soon as it came out. Plus, you said you were doing something prior to reading this, so it gave us time. Okay. I'm catching up, though. I'm actually catching up. Increased sparkles. He just has more sparkles around him. What does that even mean, bro? Why does he even have sparkles around him? I fucking love Yoshi. What the fuck? What a buff, bro. What a fucking buff. What does that even mean? Why? Increase the sparkles. Huh? I'm happy Deadlock hasn't fallen down the hole with supports like Overwatch did. For context, almost half of the current supports roster in Overwatch is just shoot your teammates to heal. Well, that's because this is a MOBA. Like, MOBAs inherently are just not about, like, you can carry in MOBAs more, whereas in those games where the abilities are fixed, like, you have to play a certain way. He had sparkles, then they removed... Wait, they removed him? I feel like he always had sparkles in the image, at least. I didn't know they, like, completely removed him. Fixed ground strike against players brought down from mid-air, not doing damage. Oh, I didn't know they did that. Grapple tier 2 weapon damage increased from 6 to 7. Ah. Grapple tier 3 change from firing. 6% air control? And 1 stamina on usage. Interesting. Reduce flog heal, interesting. That's good. Heal by 20%. So he's gonna heal more if he gets a tier 3 flog. Holy shit. They're just throwing shit out there, bro. We're only at Lash, bro. Bro, I'm reading faster now. I'm reading faster. But even League of Legends starting to get clone abilities and characters that already exist. Well, that's because they have over 160 characters. So obviously, that's going to happen. But Overwatch is, like, different because you can't build items to make your character feel different. This game is, there's way more, like, flexibility with how you want to build. Okay. No longer scales of spirit power. Interesting. Increased throw distance. That's good. That's good. That's going to be annoying, but that's good for Lash players. McGinnis. Maggie motherfucking Guinness. Also, League is dog shit. That's not true, bruh. Okay. Oh, wait. McGinnis can move faster now. Like her dodges are faster. She's doing less gun damage, so if they want her to be more spirit. Yeah, holy fucking shit. Oh my, okay, no, that's fine. It's good. I don't know what this means, but I think it's good for everybody else except her. Significantly improved. Interesting. Turret on the minimap now flash. Oh, that's a good thing. That's like a ward now. She can throw out wards now with that, basically. They do more damage from further away. +2 charges! What? That's crazy. Holy shit. Okay, so they're going to do less damage at tier 3. Interesting. Like, they overall do less damage, but they attack from further away. This patch is insane. Viscous got buffed. What's up, Pie Matt? I know they changed his punch visually, Pie Matt. But I haven't gotten to him yet. Yo, how's everybody reading so fast? W Mina turrets. Wait, did I say Mina turrets? Oh, mini turrets. My bad. I wish they would buff ground strike instead of the flog. Yeah, I feel like he should be played more around his ground pound. Like, that's more iconic than his flog. Like, people aren't saying, flog! People are, like, spamming ground pound, like, in real life. I said, Mina, sorry, I'm obsessed with McGinnis turrets. McGinnis is actually Netanyahu dispatch, can't even lie. I mean, her turrets are going to do less damage, and her turrets also don't slow you anymore. So, like, because her turrets don't slow you anymore, you can get to them a lot faster, but they will do more damage early on, and they have more range. But they don't slow you, so if you're trying to get away, you can get away, which is good. Medical inspector duration no longer scales with spirit power. Ooh, no longer scales with spirit power. Radius, okay. Regen now scales. The regen now scales with spirit power. And cooldown increase. Okay. Interesting. Oh my, 40% spirit resilience? Well, good thing I'm playing melee Calico, so that doesn't hurt me at all. I'm still fucking the McGinnis up. And she's gonna do less fire. Wait, so this is a nerf to her for regular gun people because I'm gonna just beat her ass. I'm gonna knock the brakes off her, dude. Okay. Now increases stamina recovery by 100%. Holy dodges, bro. Oh! You can break her walls with 2 heavy melees. That's good. She got nerfed. This is a nerf, chat. This is a nerf. She does less bullet damage, has less fire rate. Oh, yeah, this is a buff. She's going to be more of a support. Yeah. She ain't going to be able to handle 1v1s, bro. Oh, yeah. Destroys an individual segment. Oh, so there's like 3 or 4 segments to it, though, right? So, I mean, that's fine. But, like, you can actually, like, help your team now after 2 heavy melees. Spectral one. Applies a slow while it passes through? What? Oh, my damage amp. Yeah, she's a good support. What? She has so many turrets. No, they're going to have to get rid of that. What? So she already gets +2 turrets. And then she gets +2 more turrets with her wall? Yeah, bro. You don't want to fight her next to her walls. Okay, I didn't realize this was her game now. Okay, heavy barrage duration reduced. Good. Okay, so she still has a lot of slows, but her turrets on their own won't be good at slowing you. So as long as you like try to run away from her after her wall, then you'll be able to get away from her. Unless she buys Mystic Slow, but you won't be as slow, which is good. I'm telling you, McGinnis is disgusting. Might be ban-worthy. Perhaps. You know what I realized? Imagine if Ivy ult and picks up Calico as Ava. Isn't that like a disgusting amount of... Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Peace. I was literally thinking that. Like, Ava, shouldn't Ava get picked up, drop me in after 6 seconds? My 2 is blowing people up. No lie, I'm going to start telling Ivies, or asking Ivies, hey, do you have your ultimate maxed out? Or whatever it needs for that? And then it'd be like, hey, ult me in. I'm nuking everybody. Late game. Extra charges, transcendent cooldown, echo shard. GG. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. McGinnis turrets broken, by the way. Yeah, that wall, extra turrets on wall, crazy. But you can break it now, which is good. That's never going away. Okay. Okay. So her ultimate does more damage too. Yeah, so they really want McGinnis to be more of a spirit character. Yeah. Mina ha! Mina ha! Here we go, chat. You can break with the turret's still there. Yeah, but the turrets don't slay you. The wall does slay you, though. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. We'll be fine. As long as I can get out, we're chilling. Stamina cooldown increased. Does that mean she gains stamina back slower? Rate cooldown increased. Oh my shit! I don't like that. Rake hero hit missing health as damage increased. That's good. Heal per kill reduced. That's, I guess, more balanced. Heal per kill, spirit scaling reduced. She doesn't have that much HP, so I guess that's fair. Tier 1 change from plus 20 heal per kill to, oh my, 60 damage? Wait, so when does she heal? She doesn't heal off of her rake anymore? Tier 2 change from plus 54 damage and 1 heal per kill spirit scaling to plus 30 heal per kill and minus 8%, the 8-second cooldown. Wait. So, yeah, you want tier 2 rake pretty early, no cap. That's a pretty good spike. Tier 3 now also provides plus 1.2 heal per kill spirit scaling. Wait, so now her rake is going to heal a lot more with more spirit. Okay, you don't need to max out her rake, though. So you just want to get to tier 2 on a rake. Singer retreat, cast range reduced. That's good. Retreat, recast. That's good because she's going to be more balanced, like she can't go as far. Retreat, recast window increased. Wait, so she has more time to recast it? Oh my goodness. Singer retreat, tier 1 change from plus 3 meter cast range to plus 20% fire rate, 8 bullets. That's on the tier 1? Okay, that'd be good. That means you'll like level up her Singer retreat one time and then max or get to tier 2 on her 1, I think. Yeah, she can't go as far. That's good. Singer retreat, tier 2 change from bullets to minus 2% cooldown. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. I like that change. Singer retreat, tier 2 change from cooldown to plus. Bro, I'm not gonna lie, Yoshi, you were cooking until that line right there. Are we fucking serious? Plus 1 recast. Do you know what people have been complaining about on Mina this entire time? Yo, and here we go. Yeah, here we fucking go. Bro, plus 1 recast? You are an idiot if you think that's a good change. What the fuck? Okay, so you're... Yeah. So they thought that the distance that she went with her Singer retreat was the problem. Nobody. It's the fact that she can go invulnerable 2 different times, bro. Now she can do it 3 times? Oh, no. That single-handedly has made her an S-tier character. I already know it because she has, supremely more survivability now. She has so much more survivability now off of that. What? That is stupid. And they didn't even change. Did they change slowing hex? I don't think they even changed slowing hex at all to be better to counter her. That's stupid. Okay, everybody has to ban Mina now because plus 1 recast is broken, and she has 0.5 extra seconds to Yo, this shit would last forever. I mean, it's not you have 2 more second cooldown, but I mean, whatever. She can go from walker to walker, by the way, with the... I gotta see this. I have to see this. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry, chat. We'll get back to it. That's some bullshit. That's stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Slowing Hex is buffed? Okay, how is it buffed? I don't remember. Does the red mean that it's in our favor? I think that may mean it's gonna go to the opposite side. I'm gonna go over to this side to see. Yeah, I can feel there being an extra camp on the map. I can feel it. I don't know exactly where it is though. Where's that? Anyways, so you said I can go from... there's no way I can go from Walker to Walker. There's no way, right? Wait. There's no way... She can't go from Walker to Walker, but she can go pretty darn far. She doesn't get that extra range anymore. Well, she doesn't go as far, which is good. She doesn't go as far. Okay, actually, you know, the fact that she really doesn't go that far might be good. Right? Yeah, it's more of like, okay. I'm not gonna lie. Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. No, wait, that actually might not be that bad. Because she doesn't go that far anymore. Like, she can't keep up with people or get away from people as fast. Yeah, look, she's not really going that far. Yeah, before she would like be like all the way right here. Because right, look. Like 3 extra meters, 10, 11, 12, 13. So she'd be like right there. I mean, she'd be like here instead. Okay, she doesn't go as far. It's not fine. My using cooldown, better projectile speed, and increased gravity. Huh? Oh, increased gravity? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. Because the reason why this is good is because she doesn't go as far. Let me look at what they changed at the base now. Wait. Was this not right here before chat? Was that further out before? Was this like more open or something? Okay, and where's the walker, the extra jungle camps? My trip in chat. Wait, where's the jungle camp? Bottom right. Bottom right. Oh! This is good. How much money does this give me? Let's see. Okay. How much money is that, chat? Anybody know how much money that is? Okay. No, it's fun. I think slowing Hex getting a buffed, more gravity, so she can't go as high. And she doesn't have more radius. That's fine. I think that's good, actually. I thought I was tripping for a second. Yeah, that's fine. That's actually fine. That's fine. Okay. We set a mastery and add dashes. You know who can go from walker to walker? Doorman. Yeah, that's crazy. He can go from base to base. Yeah, bro, they are dumbasses for doing that. If Mina is that crazy smash, like she's better late but worse in lane. Yeah, she's definitely worse in lane. She's definitely gonna have some better scaling into the late game for sure. With the what's it called? The max on her 1 giving more heal per kill. And her getting an extra cast. I didn't even see the rest of her changes yet. Bites cooldown increased from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Damage reduced from 6 to 4. Oh my gosh. Wait. Yeah, Love Bites is her third ability. Yeah, she's... Oh my god. Okay, she's doing less damage. Love Bites damage period scaling increased. Okay, so early game, she's going to do less damage. But she can scale. She might be put into the carry category now. I'm not going to lie. Bonus damage reduced from 55 to 45. Yeah, good. Bonus damage spirit scaling increased. Yeah, good. So, like, she scales into late game better, and she's worse early. Yeah. This is good. So she can't just, like, snowball. Love Bites tier 1 changed from on proc plus 4 second movement speed for 3 seconds to on proc 30 seconds slow for 3 seconds. You know, that's not... She can't get away as so if she gets like a Love Bite proc, she can't move away. Like she can't get away with the movement speed, which is good. Because whenever you air dash with movement speed, I think, or just dashing in general, don't you move faster? Or something her movement is gonna be slowed, which is good. Tier 2 damage bonus reduced from 3.650 to 3 and 45. Yeah, she's doing less damage. I'm not gonna lie. This might be a good change for her. Like, I'm actually not as mad about the recast because she has to stay in more if she wants to get a kill because she does less damage and she can't just like move away as far, which is really good. Love Bites tier 3 change from on proc -1 stamina. And 30% slow for 3 seconds to -4 second cooldown. And on proc. Yeah, you're not maxing. I don't think you need to max her. Actually, the cooldown is good though. I'm not gonna lie, the cooldown is good, so you might still max that. Yeah, it might be like you might put 2 points into her 2, 1 point into her 1, and then 2 points into her. No. 1 point to her 2, 2 points into her 1, and then you max her 3 for the recast. And then you probably max her 1. But the Love Bites is her main thing. I don't know, chat. Well, somebody's gonna figure it out. Yeah, that's a good spot. There was fucking nothing there before. Yeah, that's really good because if you're behind, you actually have a camp that's easy for you to get to. So you can do a box run and then take that camp. That'd be so good. 30. Bruh. Trophy collector back on the menu, boys. Yeah, it is. I'm so happy to be a Victor player. Haven't played, but mostly a W patch besides Geist buff for some reason. I've never really had a problem with Geist, so I feel like it might be good. Like, she's actually going to be more of a threat. Like, if she can aggressively use her ultimate now. Big Dud try greater expansion with her retreat. I got to see how nutty I might be not home to try it. Okay. Let's try it out then. Let's see if we got let's see. I mean, like the likelihood of just like being that crazy, right? Hold on. Oh wait, I didn't. Yo, just get on top of the thing, shit. Where my stamina? Whatever, we're just gonna do it like this. Okay. So she still doesn't, she really doesn't move as far as people thought before. Yeah, that's really not that far, chat. I mean, overall, it is farther if you get greater expansion. If you don't get greater expansion, I think it's shorter. You already know the 7 words that go after 30. I got you, bro. I know exactly what you're talking about. Mina gets slowed, right? But that means she's invincible more though, which is good. Plus to her distance being chopped. I think it's actually a good balance, especially with slowing Hex getting buffed. So she's gonna be falling a lot faster. She's gonna be falling a lot I think even in her ultimate, like she won't go as high. She won't go as high or as fast. And then she's just gonna be lower to the ground. She's gonna be dropping faster and be lower to the ground. She's good. Nam, it's not as nutty. Still has some team fight potential though. Yeah, it's good. I think it's good. I think it's good because like you could outplay somebody with the extra sanguine retreat. So it's gonna be more like you can style on people by being in the fight. I like it. I like it. I'm not gonna lie, chat. I think I like it. I think I like it. Wait, try to press 2 when you use your aim, like hover with Mina. Wait. Oh, so after you sanguine retreat, you can't do it again. Like, you just fall down. You can't do the aiming anymore. That's interesting. Interesting. That's good. Yeah, she's not as floaty. She's still gonna fall down faster, better. Yeah, she's not going as far, chat. Because, right? Because she doesn't go as far, I think she has less movement with that. Well, hold on. Let me do it this way. Ah, I fucked up. Hold on. Okay, so she can still do that. Yeah. Still like a meter off, but like you get so much distance still. Yeah, you do get a lot of distance. Not as much. It's gonna be like more for like you can outplay somebody. Like you can counter things like this. This is what I'm thinking. So it looks like I'm gonna get Echo Shard on my 2 on Mina. There's no way you're gonna get Ethereal Shift. 22-second cooldown? Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to it. Yeah, because it actually, the retreat has gone down 4 meters. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Cooldown increased by 15. Damage reduced by 0.4. Tier 1 increased from 1.8 to 2.2. Wait, so does... Well, it's still going to do more damage than before, though. When you max it to tier 1. Tier 2, cooldown increased. Okay. That's it. Okay. I think she's going to be more like, you have to outplay people more. She's still going to be kind of annoying having 3 retreats, but she can't get as far away, so you can still kill her if she doesn't outplay you. I think that's good. Bullet damage reduced. Okay. Oh, okay. So his one might be a little bit better. Damage amp on a target? Yo! That's good. That's really good. Max health still plus 50, okay. My blues is plus 2 charges, okay. Oh my gosh, even more damage amp? Holy shit! So when you get this to tier 3, it makes his 3 do significantly more damage with 20% damage amp. I got done testing everything. They made Callie a S tier hero. Whoa, 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 whoa. Her gloom bombs and her ultimate do less damage. I don't know what you're talking about, Snips. She does less damage. Calico does way less damage with her gloom bombs. That was her biggest problem. She does less damage. I don't know what you're talking about, actually. I don't know, Snips. What is this guy on about? Spirit Calico is so nerfed, actually. Plasma no longer have reduced effect against nightmares. Dust Devil, no longer Tornado. Oh, 0.4 seconds? Holy shit. Can recast. Wait, wait. Wait, hold on. Oh my gosh. Oh hell no. This is literally Mina. We got 2 meters in the game, bro. We got 2 meters in the game, bro. We got 2 meters in the game, bro. And he has more stamina. Just now, watch. Imagine he gets this. And then he also gets this now, right? Where's that? So bro's just gonna be... You are not killing this dude at all. If he gets all of this. I don't know if you actually could stand a mastery. But like... Yo... Mods do Mina in town as far as spirit and annoying. Echo Shard. Oh my gosh, bro. Are we serious? Tornado! Man. And he does more damage now. Like, everything he, so far that I've read, does more damage. Like, he amplifies his damage with the scarabs. I wonder if, like... If you put 2 on one person, if they get 20% damage amp on them or not. That'd be so interesting. And he has 5 seconds to recast his Dust Devil. Oh my gosh. 5 whole seconds. GG. GG, bro. Mirage Jin Mark cooldown increased. Okay. Okay. Jin Mark multiplier duration increased. Reveal duration increased. Fading 60% slow. Melee Mirage with Devil, perhaps? I don't know how that would work, though. It's crazy they made it already low S tier character S tier plus. Yep, they kind of did that. Well, actually, I don't think Mirage was like S tier before. Like late game he's good, but I don't think he's just broken. But now he does more damage with like basically everything. Gen Mark tier 2 increased. Yeah, look at this. Everything he does more damage. What? What? Also stuns? What in the fucking broken? Bro. Ban Mirage, ban Mina. That's simple. That's all you gotta do, bro. Or maybe you don't need a ban Mina because you don't have that much HP. But like, nah, this is he's doing mad damage for no reason. What the fuck? So on DLNS on Wednesday chat, every team is picking or banning Mirage. Facts. Actually, like every team, like almost first picking Mirage. Traveler cooldown reduced. Why do they buff him so much? Now can be cast while on zipline. I don't know how useful that is. No longer channels. Oh, okay, that's good. I think it should be on a 10-second cooldown, though. But that's good. He can't just, like, leave now. That's pretty good. Now targets a location on a minimap rather than units. Places you at the ground level of that. He can teleport anywhere! Bro, no. Because, like, bro, I know Twisted Fate can kind of do that, right? That is some bullshit. Anywhere. Chat. He can go into your enemy. This dude can just end the game. If he spawns in, he can ult from his base to your base. Think about that. Based off of what I'm hearing here, right? Hold on. We got Mina and Cooler Mina. This dude can go anywhere on the map. Bro, this is stupid. So he just spawns in. Hey, I'm going to go end the game now. Okay. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, he's S+. Mirage is S+. He can backdoor your enemy team. Oh my gosh, that's broken. It's crazy they made it, yeah. Swapping from Mina to Mirage, it seems. Yep. Mirage ult used to be a league ward, let's be honest. This is nutty. This is broken. He could go anywhere. Mirage Tower no longer grants 2 movement speed. Yeah, that doesn't fucking matter. To a change from 2 movement speed to 3 movement speed until for 12 seconds. Bro, that shit don't matter. Tier 2 change from grants traveler buffs to ally. Yeah. Yo, so he gets a barrier himself. He's just gonna be ending games by himself. With Dust Devil 2 times and 400 barrier? Bro, you have to have somebody in your base at all times as you have your base down. What? You have to have your waves pushed in at all times, or he's just gonna backdoor the fuck out of you, bruh. And then he gets refresher. He's just gonna do it again. He can teleport in, teleport out. He can teleport in, teleport out. Woo! Travel free unstoppable for 3 seconds to 80-second cooldown. Okay, that him not being unstoppable is good. At tier 3, no item, it's 65 seconds cooldown. Wait, it's on a 65-second cooldown? Wait a minute. I mean, he can still teleport in, teleport out, and then teleport back in 65 seconds later. I mean, if I were trying to just win games as fast as possible, that's probably what I do. Hey, everybody, keep one lane pushed in. That's all I care about. I'll go back door every 60 seconds. Okay, Mo Krill changes. We're getting there, chat. We're finally getting below. We're getting there. Mo Krill. +4 movement speed? Holy shit. Well, this is good. This is good for the high mobile people. Oh, it doesn't slow by that much anymore. +1 second duration. Oh, that's kind of a nerf, I'm not gonna lie. Oh my gosh. Wait, Mo's kind of nerfed. UPS increase. Yeah, I don't. He has to wait longer to do that. That's 60 extra seconds. 2-1 change from +30% bullet resist during combat to +100% lifesteal. I mean, that's good. 2-2 change from +7 to +60 DPS and +50 bullet resist. Oh wait, hold. He's all about his ultimate. 2-3 change from 32 DPS and 80 lifesteal to duration and cooldown. I mean, that's pretty good. Nerfed? Yeah, he got nerfed. Brainer, what's up? His ult now? What are you talking about, Brainer? Low-key easy way to nerf Mirage ult would just to make it where any damage done to him or his TP smoke just cancels it, but I know they are just gonna revert that ult buff. Yeah, there's no way he's gonna be able to teleport anywhere on the map. I think they need to make it like a radius around where he's at. So like he can still be the designated traveler. I'm gonna teleport in and backdoor. Like we need more characters that can do that so people are more wary of their position. Like I think it's good, but him being able to teleport from his base to the enemy base is broken. So there needs to be like a radius. Like just put like a big circle on the map where he can teleport. I think that's how you want to play him. I think that's the appropriate change. You need a max ult first, no moves for sure. Yeah. He's the king of tunnels now too. Like he's the top of the tunnels food chain. Wait, can he go into tunnels now? Can he burrow into tunnels? I think Mo got nerfed, but his ultimate is really good. But that's like kind of like the whole point of playing Mo is off of his ultimate. Yeah. Oh wait, I didn't read that. Wait, I skipped this part. I don't know why I just read from here. Okay, scorn damage reduced, scorn radius reduced, spirit scaling increased. More damage on the scorn. Tier 1, tier 2 change from extra damage to cooldown, more radius. Okay, so he's going to do more damage with scorn. Burrow now lets him enter tunnels. That's good because now the tunnels has more people in it, and he can be more of an ambush from the tunnels, which is good. Yeah, I think that's good. I think he should have been able to do that. That makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Increase from, okay. Wait, how did I not see this before? Am I stupid, chat? Yeah, I just read from here. I started here. Yeah, okay. So he can enter tunnels now, and he moves significantly faster in burrow, but he's going to be a tunnel demon. And if imagine a Mo catches a Rem underneath, oh my gosh, it's over. Yeah. And Mo can just burrow whatever, too. GG. Okay, I mean, he's going to be crazy in 1v1s in the tunnels, but... I mean, wait, that actually could be kind of a buff. Because his ultimate is like his main thing, and he moves faster in his burrow. Okay, anyways. Next! We got Paige. I don't like that his ult is a death sentence now. Yeah, he did get buffed. Yeah, he got buffed. I didn't see that first part. As a Mo main, he might be the best he's been, and because the Mo build I use uses point blank, which means I'm healing like 230 HP every quarter of a second while ulting. I just need to run refresher now. Yep. I wonder what Falcon thinks of this. I wonder if he's been able to see this yet. Okay, Paige. Conjure Dragon renamed to Bookworm. I like that. Bookworm now has 1 extra charge. Interesting. So you can make a Bookworm build a little bit. Defend and Fight renamed to Plot Armor. Oh, wow. Wow. That's a great... that's probably my favorite change out of everything in this. Plot Armor. Wait, that's genius. Nah, the devs watch anime, bro. The devs have to watch anime. At least a little bit. At least some of them. That's such a great name for that ability. Plot Armor. That's good. Barrier spirit scaling reduced. Okay. 2-3 now also increased spirit scaling. Okay. Well, that is basically... okay, whatever. Okay, we just have to get a tier 3 captivating read. Height area no longer increased with range bonuses. Cooldown increased. Mobilize duration reduced. Okay. Max amp. Is that like damage? Or what does it do? Does she like amplify damage to her team or something? I think this is a nerf. She's gonna be good at like defending towers with Bookworm now, but like I think this is like kind of a nerf. Unless the max amp is actually broken with plus 50%. I don't even know where to start with changing the I'm fucking lost. Well, Falcon, I think Mo and Krill you should focus on his ultimate. Like, cause the 100% lifesteal, focus on getting lifesteal and spirit damage on the ult, right? Because it does spirit damage, right? Because like it's gonna take a lot more to kill him with all this lifesteal. Because instead of getting resistance, so he's gonna take less damage, but he's still gonna tick downwards. He's gonna be ticking upwards depending on how much damage you do. So you want to build around his ultimate, I'm pretty sure, Falcon. And then he can go underneath. And he has more movement speed in his burrow, right? Yeah, his burrow has plus 4 movement speed. So you might get like enduring speed, like for sure. And then a bunch of spirit damage. Yeah, and then scoring spirit scaling. So you need a lot of spirit damage. And then I think you just refresh your ults on repeat, and then you burrow, movement speed, warp stone. That's like the core items: warp stone, enduring speed, What if you got mystic reverb? Hold on. People are theorizing tank buster Mo now. I don't know. Escalating could be good too. Can you use Arctic Blast while in your ultimate? Hold on. No? Okay, well then that's not a good bot. Wait, hold on. Wait, think about it. Think about Mystic Reverb. Hold on, Falcon. Look at the lifesteal. You're not dying if you ult, and then you get Refresher too? Hold on. Wait, I think I may have cooked a little bit. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I need more HP. Is that not good healing? Is that not good healing? Are you thinking about the life steal? Yeah, is that not good healing? Healing booster gives the exact same. Oh. Oh. Oh, my bad. I thought maybe could be. Does it? Okay, hold on. Let's try that again. Hold on. 200 HP. 1795 versus you get up to 200 HP. Hey, that did not do as much healing, but maybe you get healing tempo. I don't know. Wait. 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 Oreo, Oreo, what's up, bro? What's good, buddy? How you feeling about the changes, bro? Healing booster actually does not give the same, yeah. Leech and infuser. Are you thinking about the lifesteal? Yeah. I don't think leech is good because it doesn't do any like bullet damage. It only does spirit damage, so it'd be better just to get infuser because it gives you more spirit. And then, yeah. So you could probably carry games with a build that revolves around the lifesteal. Not gonna lie, Falcon. But maybe you know something different. I really think that his ultimate is the main focus for sure. But oh, you can't. You have to like get in, get out, bro. What the? You have to really get in, get out. Okay. Anyways, back to it. Spirit rend before you ult. Maybe. I don't know. Falcon will figure it out. That's him. Showed him the new item. Okay. What did Oreo say? Can you proc Tank Buster with score now? Let's see. Let's see base level scored. Yes. Wait. Oh, that's the rock tick. Start digging. Mumu. Okay, let's get the extra damage. I mean, you can proc it. It's just not something you can proc early. You can probably proc Mystic Burst early. Wait. Yeah, you can't proc it yet. You need to do 165 damage, yeah, so you can't. There's really only one spot on the map that's worth it for Mo to tunnel through, so I heard. But maybe you can chase after Rems now, though. So, like, if there's a Rem on the enemy team and you see him going underground, like, now there's another way to, like, counter. Or Calico. Let me catch up with what you guys are saying. Lifesteal stacks on top of Mo's ult lifesteal. Yeah. So it's effectively higher. Yeah. But you use your one during ult? I just feel like building into Spirit lifesteal on his ult is kind of good. Infuser won't be much on top of reverb. It won't? Really? But it gives you extra spirit damage, no? So like, what the fuck is the golden egg goose whatever item? Oh, yeah. My bad. So this is for supports. It gives you more movement speed, and the longer you hold on to it. So this is what we'll do. Plus 405. Wait, so if I use it now. Wait. Plus 3 weapon damage. Wait, it goes away? Wait. It goes away, chat. After you use it, it goes away. Okay, so let's see. If I go up like a lot. If I just hold on to this for like mad minutes, right? Let's see how long it goes for. I'll wait till we get to like 1,000. Looks like he's about to shit himself. What are you doing, bro? I'm doing the bow and krill dance. Why does he breathe like that? Can you duration extender and ults? Yeah, I can't do that. Which I think Mo and Krills already do that. I was just showing like the base stuff of it. Okay, we're at 1,000 now. Is that worth? Chat, you see how much that was? I feel like that wasn't even that much. But the longer you hold on to it, the more buffs you get. Souls to gain 1,008. Oh, wait. I didn't gain any souls. Wait, oh, no, I'm trolling. Yeah, it goes up after time. I'm so stupid. Goose Egg is actually pretty good. I think it's good for support. You get a damage penalty, which I don't think is very good. But if you're a support player or a pick player, then this could be good. So this could be decent on Mo, kind of, maybe, perhaps. But you do significantly less damage. And you just get, like, extra stats. I feel like it... I don't know how good this is, bro. It's 3 hours, still not done with patch notes, by the way. It has not been... No, I didn't start the patch notes until after, like, an hour, I think. There's really only one spot in max 1, Spirit Rend, Mystic Reverb, Refresher, Superior. Cooldown's actually insane. So, Spidey. Spider-Man? No. We not curious enough for this new egg, for real. Spider. Hey, bless up. Egg is not that crazy. I think you sell it. Yeah, you don't sell it. You use it, and then it gives you active items. We've been testing for 3.5 hours. No, I haven't, bro. I forgot the buffs. Yeah, it gives you buffs. Tell me it's just another beginner league support item. Kinda. Fuck are you doing, bro? This plus Trophy Hunter is probably crazy. Maybe. Maybe. He's seizing. I was doing the Mo dance, bro. Does Transcendent cooldown make it stack faster? No, it stacks off of the minutes. So that's why I sped up the time. Because the longer you have it, the more it gives you. Like it literally says, gain a permanent buff per 200 souls stored when hatched. 75 soul value per minute. Okay. I mean, hold on to it until you have to sell it late game and it free real estate. Well, I just held on to it for probably like more than 10 minutes, maybe, or almost 10 minutes. And it only gave me 4 stats. So I don't know. She's pretty ass to me. I feel like it might be a good support item because you also get movement speed and it's just like extra stats. It's for the supports that don't need a farm, right? But I mean, the damage penalty is kind of crazy. I bought it on Victor. You're trolling. It could be okay on Haze and stuff since they just farm all game. Nah. Also, Egg on Wraith is OP. She has 7k while they had 4k. Really? Goose Egg and Trophy Hunter? Trophy Collector gives 3 extra souls. Oh, Oh, wait. Wait, hold on. Wait, okay, hold on. So if I kill something, I don't know how to use modes, but bear with me. Did that give me more? Holy shit, how do you play Mo and have fun? Did that give... I don't think that's giving me more money. Or... I don't think... Is that counting towards the golden egg? I'm not killing that, bro. You guys do the math, bro. Fuck that. I can't do damage with Mo, bro. It's not my character. You're sleeping on the egg, though? You can't buff the egg. Listen. I will not ever buy that item. I'm just letting you know. That's a support or carry item. I think Oreo may have some insider information because you played with it or something. But I'm not thinking that that's going to be that crazy. It makes up for the centers you don't get, and you're probably selling it at like 20 minutes. But so you're gonna be doing 10% less damage for 20 minutes, bro? Think about how dog shit that is. 20 minutes of just selling. Also, what's up, Rush? Thoughts on the patch overall, or are you not through yet? I'm not through yet. I am more than halfway though. I'm down here. I'm actually on Paradox now. Yes, sir. Egg seems busted. You guys are trolling if you think the egg is busted. It's only good if you play supports. Or like people that scale into late game because you're gonna be farming a lot. I don't think it's that good. Unless you're farming a lot or you're support. Egg can be like okay sometimes. I think egg is good on people that are dog shit early and need to farm. Or supports that don't farm but will get us a bunch of assists because they're roaming a lot. Let's say you sell goose egg at like 30. In for the slot, that's like 2 free centers and like 6 waves worth of minions. It doesn't give you Wait, no, it does give you money. 75 souls? I mean, 6 waves in 35 minutes. Think about how minuscule that is. Rem and Mo are definitely the best for egg. No, I disagree. Egg is strong if you don't need the DPS. That's true. It's strong if you don't need a DPS or you have good farming. Egg is strong if you're smurfing, perhaps. I'm going to play a game on every character and buy egg first every time. Okay. I thought it gives a buff for every 200 souls farmed. I mean, I was at 1,000, 2, 4, 6, 8. So that should have given me 5 souls. Hold on. This is what we're going to read the patch while this is just moving in speed. We're going to speed this up while we read these patches. And then at the end, we'll see if it gives me like 30 extra things. But why did they buff Calico? Because she needed it, bro. She sucks. 200 souls farmed with the egg. And you just get extra souls for just sitting around too. So, okay. Paradox. Calico's scary now. No. Don't spread this propaganda. Mirage is scary, bro. Calico is okay. Leave Calico alone, bro. Don't piss me off. I love how I said we're not curious enough about the egg, and it's been the talk for the last 5 minutes. Hey, people are theorizing how to scale into late game. I think this is good discussion, except the Calico bullshit. That is nonsense. Calico sucks. Dick. McGinnis and Mirage are going to be disgusting. Definitely McGinnis, though, and I like skip Paradox. Actually... Wait, Time Wall now increases ads? Wait, increases ads. What? Plus 30% weapon damage to allied bullet damage affects Carbine. Okay, but doesn't Carbine do spirit damage, not bullet damage? or weapon damage. Anyways. So she's gonna do more carbine damage for her wall. Oh, their time wall got another charge again. Okay. You get faster with more spirit with her carbine. Base damage skill increase when it goes. Okay, so her carbine damage is gonna scale higher. Paradox can swap multiple people. Hold on. %, current health. Is that good against tanks, chat? I think that might be good against tanks. Oh, wait. wait. No. Yo. Oh, hold on. Let me. Hold on. Okay, let's just go ahead and use it now because I'm about to swap the Paradox. It swaps multiple people. She can. Okay. Let's see. Chat, look at the screen. What the fuck was that? Why is this? I don't know what the hell just happened. Okay. Yeah, you guys are funny. Okay, let's see what it gives me. Everybody pay attention. Was that worth, chat? I don't think that was worth. I don't think that was worth, no? I feel like that really wasn't worth it. Sudden guest appearance. The shop gets brighter if you haven't looked at it for a long time. Wait, is that real? I didn't know that. What's this? Bobby and JJ. 3K souls, though. Yeah, after how long, chat? What? Did it proc? Yeah, it only gave me 4 stats. I think it gave me more stats within the stats. Somebody clip it. I mean, you get extra souls over the course. So it's kind of like, the culling thing. So if you suck at the game and you just want to like get extra farm without like fighting, and you just want to like go farm or whatnot, you could use it and then sell it and then get extra stats. But yeah, I think it's gonna be.
Will you prove worthy?
Probably not.
Bro, how the fuck do y'all come up with y'all's name? How is that? Howie? Howie Law, welcome to the Akatsuki. Thank you. Appreciate you, bro. Welcome in. It gives you more, it just doesn't show. Okay. How do you know that? Check tab. How do you know what it gave me, bro? How do you know what it gave me? Is 7 for supports and to let other teammates grab centers. You fucking slut. That was dirty. I can't thank you? Yeah, it's Howie. Okay. I just hard crafted a MOBA that full kit combo does 13k total without centers buff. Come on. It can only show 4 buffs at a time. 10% is not that much though. Okay. Well, they better figure something out because how am I supposed to know what it's going to give me? I need to know everything that it gives me for me to like think it's good value. 10% is a fuck ton early game. Yeah, like you do no damage early game if you buy this. So it's like you really only want this on supports. Or get it on, if you're going to go farm for the next 10 years, right? I guess. Or, yeah. I guess if you're really behind and you're like, okay, I can't fight anybody, let me just go farm. Put this on like a carry character. They can buy that. But it's like, yo, you're not going to be doing, if somebody finds you, you're dead as shit. Okay. Yeah, let me swap characters. Let's stay on task here. I'm not going to lie. This might be crazy. Paradox might be one of the best pick characters in the game now. What is that? Yo, whoever said to skip paradox, you're trolling. You're trolling. She can do this now? Oh my gosh. It was me and I stand by it. Yo, you're trolling. What the? Wait, what if I did like this? Huh? Oh, it doesn't do damage anymore. Wait. Okay, so there's no point in having... It doesn't do damage. If you could put people through 2 of these walls and you teleport everybody into that, oh my gosh. I'm better Apollo than you. Yo, you are in the depths of the sewers when it comes to rank, Karma. You could not hang with the big boys, bro. You with your crumpets and tea and beans on toast and whatnot, Karma. You are not better than me at Apollo. You just play in lower lobbies. Anyways, this shit is crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Swapping that many people, GG. Nah, if she might be better than wait, oh, I gotta test like around the wall or something. Hold on. Wait. Remove bots. What if I did something like... If I did that, and then I did this. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty interesting change. She's pulling people around walls. Wait, that's kind of sick though. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of sick. Anyways, can you check max number of swap? Swaps all enemies. There you go. It swaps every single enemy that's close within 7 meters. So if I get, hold on. Wait, hold on. What if I do like this? Huh? You just, okay. Okay, so it has to be in radius of the first person. Okay. Wait. Okay, that was too far away. Okay, but okay, it swaps everybody. That's a good ability. I'm not gonna lie. Paradox is gonna be really good. I'm not gonna lie. As a good pick or initiator now. Holy shit. Howdy, yo, what's up, Howdy? Okay. Bro, Gimtex, you're trolling. You were like, yeah, bro, it's not gonna be that good. Howdy, we got somebody else in the chat. His name's Howie. Y'all might be relatives. Wait, premium? I'm gonna continue. Okay, now we got Pocket. Sorry, let's continue. Let's just quit wasting time. Why is she there 50 buffs? Was there an update to this game? Yes. That's good, Howie. Yeah, there was a buff. Huge update, bruh. Pocket barrage projectile speed increased. Okay. Use stamina during the... What the... Yo! Dude, they just keep giving players the ability to do whatever they want. Okay, that was the wrong ability. What the fuck? What? Hold on. Wait. Okay, I've used stamina beforehand. Interesting. I wonder how that's gonna feel. Barrage now lets you use stamina during the ability, but now lets you use flying cloak during the ability. Interesting. Barrage to increase more damage. Okay. Holy. More radius. Flying cloak cooldown. Reduce? He can cloak more often? It does less damage though. Duration increased. And he can go further? Oh no, same distance, okay. Affliction tier 3 now prevents all healing. What the fuck? McGinnis changes are insane. I said skip Paradox because no one plays her, not because it wasn't good. Right. I need to... Bro, I don't play any of these people, Gimtex. I only play Calico. I'm reading these so that I know what I'm dealing with. So whenever I get Paradox swapped when I'm not the one that's target, I don't get upset. Poggin can now fully stop healing of enemies. Yo. Are y'all just reading faster than me? Like, how y'all getting to that? Okay. Sunshine. Yeah. +5. Glock gets back upon cast for 8 seconds. Glock gets back. Glock gets back. Change from 7 after teleporting for 10 seconds to... Oh, never mind. Glock it isn't actually back. I get... Nah. Yeah, no, I mean, you do less damage on your cloak. You just do more weapon. You do less weapon damage, too. I don't know. This flying cloak kind of got nerfed. I'm not going to lie. But use it more often. It's like more of a movement thing now. Too much info. I didn't read any of it. Backing down... Wait. That's what I'm saying. You don't need to worry because you won't see a paradox. I will, though. They changed too much stuff. And that's why you have to dive in. That's why I've been here for like hours, bro. I'll be graduated before you're done with these notes. I'm literally almost done, bro. Okay. Then Satchel Spirit scaling increase. So our Satchel is going to be the main source of damage now, which makes more sense. The Satchel should have been the thing doing more damage. Now also reduces movement speed. Fire rate slow increased. Escape duration increased. Okay. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna lie, Pocket's gonna be annoying, bro. Pursues base hill change from 2 seconds to 8 seconds. Interesting. What the hell is that pocket all? It's gonna be crazy. What's up, Beater? 2nd grade reading speed. I read so fucking fast, bro. I'm just when I read out loud, it takes. Finally, Dynamo 1 doesn't skill with spirit. Come on now. I know you're not almost done. I'm literally almost done, bro. Like, give me like 20 more minutes. Look, I'm literally at the bottom, right? Look at me, bro. I'm moving. Movement speed? Oh, I think that's cool. Movement speed increase. Okay. 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 160 damage? Holy shit. No longer scales of spear power. Cooldown increased for 4. Power surge increases to 4. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like 7 got buffed. Zero bullet resistance. And then it goes up if you max it out or level up. Okay. I'm gonna have to hop on because they buffed my Vindicta and Wraith. 1 more hour. We're not here for 1 more hour. What does the new item do, by the way? See, this is why it takes me longer to get through. So the new person comes in the chat. What does the item do? I'm not going to go back. It gives you more buffs. So I don't know if the buffs or nerf. I think it's a buff. Why rework Bebop, bruh? They barely did anything to Bebop. Yo, everybody, just for future reference, Premium is a troll. Do not listen to Premium. Anything he says is a troll. How does it do? What is it, bro? How do you haven't even played the game? I know you haven't. You haven't talked about it. Shiv. Okay, this is something that some people have been talking to me about. Stamina reduced from 3 to 2. Interesting. Move speed reduced. He's even slower. Bullet damage growth increased. So as bullets do more damage, his less stamina. No longer impact damage, bleed DPS per knife increased. Okay. Spirit scaling increased. Okay. No, wait. Not +1 charge? Interesting. +2 charges. Ooh, okay. Okay, so, yeah, he's going to be more of a draining, like, he's just damage over time. And more spirit scaling, okay? Back damage reduced from... Okay. Multiple instances stack. So the more he hits you with slice and dice, the more your spirit resistance goes down. Okay. So you're going to be ticking down quite a bit. Oh my god, he's reducing spirit resistance like crazy. Slice and dice here also grants plus 50 impact damage, okay. Killing blow is no longer unit targeted. Oh! This is good! No longer unit targeted. Oh my gosh, so they can miss now. He has less stamina and he can miss now. But he's going to be using that to get out now. Good! That's good. Skip shift, bro. Do not piss me off. Freeman is the GO Eternus player that tries to help Big the no, bruh. What? That's so good. Damage amp reduced. 14. That doesn't matter. Blow tier 2 change from plus 5% enemy health threshold and 6% damage amp to plus 8% damage amp. Oh my gosh. The health threshold doesn't increase. Oh my gosh. Shiv is so different. Killing blow tier 3 now grants you 20% seconds to recast it. Oh my gosh. Yo. This is kind of what I was talking about. Because I said he can do it, just not as many people. But I also said that they shouldn't make it to where he can just insta lock onto somebody. So now you can dodge him if like warp storm or something. Killing blow tier 3 now also increases the enemy health threshold by 5%. Oh, you have to get it to tier... Oh my gosh. Okay. That's actually pretty clean. He's going to feel better. He's going to feel better because you can actually outplay him. Oh my god, you can get out. You can get out like this. Oh my god. It's really not doing damage. Whoa! Wait, I like that so much more. That's so much better, bro. That's pretty cool. Okay. Chat, that's good. I like that. I like that, chat. So, like, people that are trying to just catch up to you, the likelihood of them missing is increased because they think that they're gonna probably change it to where he gets more range on his dash at some point. Because he doesn't really dash that far. But now it's not just going to be a guaranteed, oh, I see that I can execute. Let me click it, and it's free kills. And he only has 20 seconds to recast it. So if you stay away from him or stay above HP for long enough, then you can't do it again. Bro, oh my fucking Victor, dude. Okay. What's the CD when you miss? Normal CD. Shiv is actually toilet bowl tiered. Low-key, Wraith gotta be my new favorite change. Yo, people have been talking about Wraith for so long. Took a shower, A, we made progress. Red Shiv now. Come on now. Can't believe they nerfed Calico. Yeah, bro, it's a sad day for the Calico mains, but it's okay. Warpstone ult. Yeah, you're gonna be Warpstone ulting probably. But he only has 2 stamina. So he might need a superior stamina now. Silver is dead, let's go. Mauling, leap damage, scaling reduce, okay. Fixed tail whack being considered a movement ability. Okay, that's fair. Tail whack disarm duration reduced. That's fair. Tail whack slow duration increased. Ooh, that's good. Okay. Lightning curse cooldown increase. Oh my gosh! No, that's good. That's good. Her being able to just ult so quickly, because it goes on cooldown like almost like as you're still in the form, no? So she was ulting really often. Base health bonus reduced from, oh my god, it's so good. Oh my, wow. I'm not gonna lie, they may need to change that back because she gets less HP from turning, and also it's on a longer cooldown. Incursion no longer grants, oh my gosh, to when resist increased. Okay. Well, I guess, increase to 2 bonus health increase. Okay, I think this is, okay. She's definitely significantly weaker, but dude, that's good shit right there, I'm not gonna lie. Bro, found alive in my room. Bro, where's her buffs? She does not need any. Victor better have straight only buffs. Let's see. Bullet damage increased. She does more bullet damage. Pain battery now starts charged. Oh, so whenever you level up his 1, it already is charged. That's interesting. Range increased. Oh, my range, bro. Oh, my range. Somebody make like a Darth Vader freaking mod or something where you just... or who has electricity in their build? Okay. Anyways, back on track. Reduced randomness of the projectile's path. Okay. Battery bolt count from 5 to 7. I don't know what that means. Tier 2 increase from 36 to 50. Bruh. For Balatro mod for Wraith. I don't know what Balatro is, chat. I'm excited to get to Wraith because you guys have just been yapping about it this whole time. Pain battery tier 3 now increased spirit scaling. Okay, pain battery is going to be pretty good. Jumpstart cooldown increased. Nice. Move speed reduced. Nice. Spirit scaling reduced. Yeah, I guess that's good. Tier 1 increase from... Oh, bro, fuck that. My character's playable again? TD, who's your character? Tier 2 now also reduces cooldown by 8. Okay, now also provides +1 charge. Okay. Wait. I feel like this might be a buff for Victor. All of suffering time to max DPS reduced from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. Yeah, this is a buff. Yeah, this is a buff. Yeah, this is a buff. Min DPS reduced from 16 to 12. Wait, that's a nerf. Oh, wait. Spirit scaling reduced? Hold on. Less spirit steal, life steal? Oh, wait. No, wait. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, wait. Maybe this just makes him feel better to play against. Wait. Holy. Oh, wait. He takes more damage from Aura of Suffering. Aura. Victor's shocking reanimation radius reduced. Wait. This maybe just makes him feel better to play against. Because, like, he had some good stuff in the beginning with his one. But, like, the aura going down might be bad. Health reduced? Oh, my gosh. Shock reanimation tier 1 changed from +3 meter radius and 90 damage to while on cooldown. Wait, oh, while on cooldown, he does more spirit damage. That's it, yo. How am I getting notified on Steam? I could have sworn I changed that, bruh. Shocking reanimation. My bells have been hitting. Not right now. I thought I deactivated that. Holy shit. Victor got butt from A to S. Are you sure? Maybe he's not late game carry anymore. I think he's going to be more of like a slowing tank. But his one does more damage, though. Yo. Yo. Okay, whatever. Fuck it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shotgun anti from wild cooldown plus 18% of spirit damage to plus 6 radius plus 1 stun. So he does less damage with his ultimate if you're in it. Wait. That's pretty good. Victor is C tier. S is crazy. Yeah, I think this is going to make him feel better to fight against. I feel like he's not going to scale as much. Actually, his pain battery goes crazy. Because increased scaling and damage. I don't know, count from 5 to 6. I don't know what that means. And range is crazy. And it starts charge now. I feel like his pain battery does more damage. Jumpstart is going to make him do more or whatever. But Aura is nerfed, which is good. Ultimate's also kind of nerfed, I think. Okay, Vindicta. Fire rate no longer scales with spirit. Interesting. But now it scales with spirit. Bullet damage scales with spirit. Ammo reduced from 22 to 19. Bullet velocity increased. Okay. Stake damage reduced. Okay. Stake damage spirit scaling increased. So you're going to be building spirit on her. Stake projectile speed increased. Okay. Stake tier 1 changed from to 65 damage. Duration increased. Oh my goodness. Capture radius increased. Wow. W stake buff. Flight now allows you to use melee. Now allows you to parry. Okay. That was like weird. Somebody told me this like 2 weeks ago and it didn't make sense. Like why she couldn't do that. Flight now grants you plus 50% item cast range. What items does Vindicta ever go? What items does Vindicta ever buy? Echo Shard Tether. You still reading? I'm almost done, bruh. She can counterspell knockdown now. Oh. Yeah, that is true. But that just means you have to get 2 knockdowns. Or get curse. Flight spirit damage, scaling reduced. Okay. Flight duration reduced. Okay. I like that she's not in disguise. No, duration increased. Never mind. Spirit damage per bullet reduced. Okay. Now increase spirit scaling. Now also refreshes duration on hero kill. Wow. I don't know if I like that one. Shit, she never touched the ground. Crow Familiar now releases a swarm of crows in a cone forward, hitting all enemies along path. Wait a minute. Debuff duration no longer scales with spirit power. Debuff duration increased. Bleed damage reduced. Damage increased. Cooldown increased. Reduces healing. Oh, W reduced healing. I like that. I like that more characters have that. Also increased bleed damage. Now also increased debuff duration. Assassinate while scope no longer unscopes when using items. Okay. Now has a 4-second buffer on impact for bonus credit. What the fuck does that mean? Assassinate while scope now plays a sound for you when it is fully charged. Okay. Is that for everybody else to hear as well? Weapon damage bonus increase. Oh my gosh! Make sure into our flying support. Mr. Meanball, Sabal. Alchfire. She can, wait. Oh, Alchemist Fire might actually be good now. What? That's pretty good. Viscous. I mean, and her, yeah. She's going to do more bullet damage with more spirit, and she's going to get more bullet damage on a kill with assassination. So you build spirit, and then you just do more. Like, you just build straight spirit, no? And then you can, like, do Echo Shard inside of your ult. Hold on. They may have cooked here. Now, on to Viscous. We're getting close, chat. We're getting there. It's been a full 4 hours of just reading and testing things. Viscous Bladder bounces once by default. Okay. Cooldown reduced. Bladder Spirit. Did y'all think Viscous is buffed or nerfed? Or Pie Man said it was a buff. Splatter Spirit scaling reduced. Okay. Ground effect now increases slide distance. For you and your allies, okay? Multiple hit damage value reduced. Okay. Radius increased. Cooldown increased. Or, yeah. Spirit scaling increased. Okay. Adds 2 bounces. Okay. Why did it say that? Still adds 2 bounces, like that was going to be gone or something. The cube now has a very brief period where allies cannot cancel to prevent accidental cancels. Okay. Troll. That's a troll patch right there. Cube healing spirit scaling increased. Oh, better healing. Increase. Yo, they better increase the healing negation or debuffs. There's an ad. I think we might have a deal here. This scaling kind of sucks on bullets. But she also gets extra weapon damage upon getting assassination. So you just build into spirit, and then you get assassinations. You get more bullet damage, and then you also have more bullet scaling because of the spirit. But you just don't shoot faster. So we're chilling. Okay. Puddle Punch now grants plus 30% air control when affecting yourself or allies. Interesting. Punch charge time increased from... Charge time went up by 0.2 seconds. Slow increased to 20%. Now acts as if it's close range with respect to item procs. Like, oh! Puddle Punch radius reduced. Puddle Punch tier 2 changed from plus 27 damage. Move slow to plus 20 radius. And plus 30... Oh, my damage. Oh, wow. Wait, that's... Yeah, I think you can play him a bunch of different ways now. Goo Ball no longer can carry Urn. Oh, I like that. Goo Ball turn rate improved a bit. Nice. Goo Ball can now use abilities and items. Oh, Warp Stone. Rather than being locked behind tier 3. Okay. Oh, wait, you can do that in tier 3. I didn't know that. Hey, I'm down. Wait, there's an ad. Goo Ball duration increased from 9 seconds to 10 seconds. Ew. Bullet Spirit resist reduced. Oh, he takes more damage. Change from plus 5 duration to curl cooldown. Reduce from damage to 70. Does less damage to change from can now use abilities and items to plus 6 second duration. Stun duration. Wait, I like that he takes more damage. That's good. I like that. Yo, what the fuck? I come back and you're still on this? It's been like... Yo, look at how much I had to read. I was reading all of this. I read all of this. Literally. But look, we're on the last 3 characters, chat. Better can set it up while I'm at 30k points. These ads hurting my soul. I meant since I've joined, but that's even worse. It hasn't been that long, bruh. Big ass update. That's what I'm telling you. I need to hop on the game. Bullet growth per boon reduced. Less bullet damage. Alchemist flash weapon damage reduction. Okay. Damage increase. Oh, so I'll do more damage to him if he hits me. Damage increased. Okay. Now also increased weapon damage. Barodagay. Oh, increase. Now also increased radius. Okay. The bear now scales with spirit power. Change from 150 berry health and improve scaling to. Interesting. Plus 12 meter cast. Oh, that's cash, right? Never mind. Silences enemies until they escape or trapped. Oh my gosh. That means I can't use my abilities, so I have to use my stamina to get out. Well, Warden is buffed. Holy resistance. Okay. Duration. Unstoppable while channeling. Oh, man. You can't stun him out of it. Well, that's going to be interesting. Okay. Oh, my Wraith. Okay, chat, we're on the final two characters. We need a prediction for points exchange. Okay, y'all want to do that now? Or do y'all want to wait till I'm done so I won't have been sitting here for 7 hours? We can do that. That can set it up. You've been reading this for 4 hours? What's up, Honor? How you playing with TD? Who you playing with? Actual madness. This isn't madness. How you liking Calico changes? They are significantly better, Hamad. What's up, bruh? I got the buffs I've been wishing for. It's exactly what I said. Timbo redeemed no glasses. So the problem with that for you, Timbo, is you just wasted $10,000. I can still read. You still reading this? Yes, I am, geek. I'm almost done, though. I'm literally at the end. Why does everybody say that? We need some more time here. We wait to the video. Okay, I'm literally about to be done. Okay, card trick cards now have specific suits with special bonus card types. Spades, 70 damage. Diamonds, cuts enemies' resistance. Does not stack. Hearts, heals you? What? What? Joker has all the above effects and bounces to an additional enemy. What? Dude, that's so cool. Let me look at that. I don't know what that one does. Ew! And this heals me. Whoa! That's kind of interesting. Chat. Okay. Hydrate. Okay. I think wait. Legit, no point. Game feels different. No different. Apollo and Silver still broken. Silver still feels broken. They made the gambler have gambling. I have build code. 4-7 for Wraith. I don't care about Wraith, so I don't care to look at that build. But I think it's interesting for the Wraith players. Card trick base charge count increased from 1 to 2. That's good. Card trick base damage reduced. Okay. Card trick spirit scaling reduced. Build up now takes 20% longer. Oh, shit. I don't think that's good. Card trick cooldown reduced from 0.75 to 0.5. Oh, so she can throw them out really fast. Card trick post cast time reduced. Card trick now highlights the card that will be thrown next. Card trick now has unique sounds for each card suit that is summoned. That's pretty cool. Tier 1 increased from 1 charge to +2 holy charges. Charge changed from +35 damage to +40 damage and increased spirit scaling. W. Tier 2 changed from +50% card summon rate and 30% slow for 1 second to improved card suits and increased joker chance. Oh! New totals are spades 2.5 times, diamonds -13%. Wait, new improved cards? So like what they do is improved. 2.5 times the damage with spade? Oh my gosh! Heal 1 for 2 seconds. Clubs 50%. Slow. Joker is now 1 out of every 5. Oh my, tier 2, that's so good. I'm not gonna lie, Wraith players are gonna have fun with this. That is so cool. That's so unique and cool. I really like that. Fixed project mine interactions with stuns. Full auto no longer affects allies. Previously gave half fire rate to allies. Oh, so it's all she's just all on her own. Full auto duration no longer scales with spirit power. Okay, cooldown reduced. Full auto base ability now deals +2 spirit damage per bullet. Oh, with scaling. Full auto tier 1 increase from minus cooldown to 20. Tier 2 change from spirit damage per bullet to 10% fire rate and 3-second duration. Full auto tier change from plus. The fire rate's really good, I think. Say 50% bullet and spirit life steal, increasing spirit scaling to unlimited ammo and increased spirit scaling. Unlimited ammo? That's actually kind of tough, I'm not gonna lie. So you just wait till you get low on bullets, maybe, and then you just pop it, maybe? I don't know. Telekinesis cooldown increased. Telekinesis cast range reduced. Telekinesis cast time increased. Okay, telekinesis no longer has a projectile. It is now instantly lifts the target up and gives you a location target on the ground. After the 0.75 seconds is over, it'll throw the hero towards that location up to 15 meters away. The target will take 100 damage. What the fuck? Hold on. Wait. Okay, I don't have it maxed out. That's so cool! Wait, it's so cool! Wait, she's so cool! What the fuck did change from plus? So it does 200 damage. Oh my gosh! What? And to change from position science and disarm duration to so you what? That's pretty. So more cooldown, no silence though, which is good for me because I'll just fuck a Wraith up. But she's probably just gonna throw me away, which is fine. She'll throw me away and then shoot me from further away. That's gonna be interesting. Change from bounces to nearby targets to plus 1.5 debuff. Oh. Wait, debuff duration and plus 6 meter throw cast range. That is so cool. What? Bro, stop hating. Who's hating? I'm not hating. It's for the Wraith cooldown. Wait, so John, this is what you're. So, John, what do you like the most about this? Bro, you know what's crazy? John's been trying to play other characters for like the past couple of weeks, and now Wraith just gets a cool ass overhaul. Nah, there's no way you don't get back on Wraith, bro. Yeah, for the raids cooldown, fix that. Like, improved and superior is good. Wait till you get to the 3 changes. That shit's crazy, man. I'm really happy they changed the cars, but I'm so happy they made her 3 actually do damage. Wait. Oh, yeah. Now, yeah. Okay. Yep. I'm remembering it now. More fire rate. The unlimited bullets is the thing for me. Yeah, bro, she's Lash. She's Lash. Raid changes are so good. Yeah, they're actually really good. Raid's so cool, I haven't even played 7, but his balls are insane right now. You still get science, just no added duration. Oh, and move 3, okay. They give Lash more sparkles, but don't fix Yamato's avatar. Okay. Let's look at the last one, bruh. Finally at the end, chat. This song is like very fitting for me getting to the end too. Let's get through it, chat. Power slash being held down no longer automatically fires it. That is so good. That's kind of like Apollo's ultimate. Oh my god! And the anime fights, bro. You can now... I feel like the music may be a little too loud now. Hold on, I'm gonna turn it back down. You can now cast parry directly while channeling power slash to fire the power slash and parry? What? Power slash base ability now has plus 60 bullet resist while channeling. That's kind of like tier 1 of Apollo's 3. Power slash cooldown increased. Power slash length reduced. Power slash change from bullet resist while channeling to 40% slow for 3 seconds. From cooldown for slow for 3 seconds to minus 4-second cooldown. Okay. Power slash to 3 now also grants 8-minute range. Okay. Flying strike renamed to flying slash. Yeah, that sounds so much cooler. Is now light melee damage rather than spirit. Oh. Hold on. Wait, hold on, chat. Hold on. Flying slash doing melee damage? Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on. If they just change the way she looks, I might make a spirit melee Yamato build. Hold on. Depending on how much damage it does. What was that face, bro? I'm excited. I like the idea. 3 was really only useful for farming before. Oh, I didn't even realize that. I thought it was good for making her shoot faster in fights. Flying slash now increased from 30% to 50%. Is that slow? Yeah. Flying slash cooldown increased. Bruh. Range increased. Okay. Change from 25 slow to minus 18% cooldown. Change from 20% cast range to 20% cast range and gain 40% spirit for 6 seconds. Okay, well, they're not even... So you're going to go Spirit Snatch for sure now, and you're just going to do more damage afterwards. Wait, that's actually really good. Flying slash tier 3 change from can grapple to ally heroes and 6 weapon damage for 2 seconds to grapple to ally heroes becomes charged and grants 2 charges. Oh my god. People... Oh my god, wait. If they just change the way Yamato looks, I might actually like Yamato. Oh, wait. I might actually like Yamato if they actually change the way she looks. Fix flying slash tier 3 ally cast stopping too soon before reaching the player, okay? Christmas slash cooldown. Increase from 50 seconds, 60 seconds. Increase from... Oh my gosh! Plus 30% melee damage for 4 seconds? Wait, that's interesting. They just need to change the way she looks and I'll play her. Increase from minus 9-second cooldown to 10-second cooldown. Also increase spirit scaling. Shadow cooldown increased. Bullet spirit reduced. Oh, I like that. And to change from fire rate to weapon damage. Oh, my melee damage, bro. So you ult then 3. Then your 2 is going to do a good amount of damage if you go into melee. And then you smack them. And that also reduces cooldown 25 seconds. Increase from 20% bullets, spirit to 30. Okay, so whenever you max it out, it's the same. All right, chat. They didn't even do anything to Venator, chat. They didn't change. There's a couple people that didn't get changed, actually. Anyways, we finally made it, chat. Holy.